Chapter 1. A ray of sunlight spilled in through the window. Jing Yunjiao frowned and slowly opened her eyes. She got up with a splitting headache, and her long hair flowed down her ears. Jing Yunjiao stared blankly. Who was playing with her again? Hadn't her long hair been cut clean by Qiao Hongyi a long time ago? Why was it still here? There was a faint fragrance in the air. Jing Yunjiao turned her head and saw a bowl of sweet porridge on the table. But when she saw it, her heart was violently shaken. This was the place where she used to live. In a clean bedroom, on the table was her favorite glazed vase with a few stalks of rich bamboo. On the bed was a blue gauze canopy. Everything in the room wasn't very expensive, but it was something she had when she was the happiest in her life. Jing Yunjiao was extremely alarmed. Her trembling hand picked up the mirror at the side. In the mirror was a familiar yet somewhat unfamiliar face. This was her, but it was her from many years ago. Could it be that she was reborn? Jing Yunjiao clenched her fists. The skin on her body, the calendar in the room, everything told her that her thoughts were correct. This was 10 years ago. She was only 15 years old. She clenched her fists. Everything in her previous life was like a nightmare, etched in her bones and engraved in her heart. Thinking of those, Jing Yunjiao's heart trembled. After a while, she got off the bed and opened the door. She saw a few familiar faces in the living room. When Jing Yunjiao saw the faces of her enemies, she only felt her blood flow faster, and she gnashed her teeth in hatred. There were 4 people sitting in the living room. 2 adults and 2 children. Her mother, Yi Qin, stepfather, Qiao Weimin, and a pair of fraternal twins, Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou. In her previous life, she had always thought that Yi Qin was her biological mother. But later on, she found out that she was actually adopted. This surname was only engraved on the jade tablet that she carried with her. Yi Qin had always been good to her, but that was under the circumstances that she didn't have any conflicts with Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou. As for his stepfather, Qiao Weimin, Jing Yunjiao's eyes were filled with disgust and hatred. In her previous life, around this time, Yi Qin had passed away due to a serious illness. She had become an unwanted bastard in the family. Qiao Weimin was a lecherous man. Without Yi Qin as his wife, he had taken liberties with her. At that time, she was young and timid, so she could only hide from him and not report him. She had always thought that as long as she quickly went to university, she would be able to avoid this bastard. However, she did not expect that this man had no intention of letting her continue to go to school. In the name of her guardian, he ordered her to drop out of school and made her wash and cook for the 3 of them at home. She lived in fear at home for 5 years. Qiao Weimin didn't succeed in getting what he wanted, but because Qiao Weimin's intentions were discovered by Qiao Hongyi spread rumors everywhere, saying that she seduced her stepfather, causing her to have no reputation at all. Every time she went out, she would be pointed at by others. When she was 20 years old, she met a former classmate by chance. The other party was passionately pursuing her, and the whole town knew about it. She knew her own situation and was not prepared to accept it. However, the Qiao family did not let her off. In his fury, Qiao Weimin finally couldn't hold himself back and made a move on her. That night, in the process of resisting, she accidentally killed him. It was clearly legitimate self-defense, but Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou inverted black and white, and she was forced to go to prison. And the person who pursued her so vigorously, after she went to prison, told her that he didn't like her at all. The only reason he did that was to provoke Qiao Hongyi. The only person he truly liked was Qiao Hongyi. Chapter 2. Thinking of the past, Jing Yunjiao couldn't wait to let these people get their retribution. But she was clear that she was still a little girl without any power. If she did anything rashly, she would be the one to get hurt. "Sister, you're awake. That's great. Mom was so sick, I was really afraid that something would happen to our family." Qiao Hongye pretended to be awake. Yi Qin's face was pale. She was beyond cure. If she remembered correctly, she passed away a few days ago. She was already preparing for her funeral. "Yunjiao, you're too insensible. Your mom is still sick, but you didn't stay at home to take care of her. Instead, you stayed with those hooligans. If it weren't for the police passing by, have you thought about what would happen to you? Qiao Weimin acted like a good father. Her fainting this time was all thanks to Qiao Hongye. Although she was only 15 years old this year, she was already in high school in the county town. Yesterday was Friday. On the way home after school, she met a few hooligans who forced her to stay. They touched her in front of many passing students and pretended to be very familiar with her. Later, they took her to a small alley. At that time, if it wasn't for a policeman who happened to pass by, she was afraid that she wouldn't have been innocent at all. Originally, she didn't know that this was premeditated. It wasn't until after Yi Qin's death that she saw Qiao Hongye and those hooligans communicating. Only then did she know the truth. Qiao Hongye was younger than her by almost a year. She didn't expect that she would be so scheming and ruthless at such a young age. Dad, you also know that my grades are ranked first in the whole school. I'm miles away from the second place. Do you think that a student like me would have a relationship with those hooligans? It's obvious that those people are deliberately bullying me, Jing Yunjiao said without hesitation. If it was in the past, she would have endured and admitted her mistake. But now, since she wasn't prepared to get along well, why should she be so careful? When Qiao Hongye heard Jing Yunjiao's words, her face turned red and white. She, Jing Yunjiao, and her younger brother, Qiao Zizhou, all went to the same school. However, the difference was that her younger brother's grades weren't good and he had to spend money to get in. On the other hand, even if she did her best, she could only get second place in the school. Jing Yunjiao was like a mountain. His grades were always better than hers. No matter how hard she worked, his grades were always better than hers. However, based on Qiao Hongye's age, she should have been 1 year younger than Jing Yunjiao. However, when Jing Yunjiao first started school, Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou were not convinced and pestered Yi Qin to use her connections to let the two of them start school earlier. That was how the three of them ended up in the same grade. Mom, the teacher said that my grades can improve, but recently, I really can't focus on my studies like sister. I'm worried about your health. Mom, I'm really scared. Every time in class, I can't concentrate. I can't even sleep well. Qiao Hongye immediately hugged Yi Qin's arm. In the end, she was still her biological daughter. The way Yi Qin looked at Qiao Hongye was always filled with love. Jing Yunjiao's heart turned cold. She still respected Yi Qin as her mother. After all, she had raised her for more than 10 years. However, she was still bitterly disappointed. Yi Qin rarely showed such an expression to her. Most of the time, her smile was fake. She had been asked to do this and that for Qiao Hongye since she was young. As long as she didn't agree, Yi Qin would get angry and scold her. In the past, she didn't understand why there was such a big difference between the two of them. Now, she understood. She was picked up by Yi Qin. At that time, Yi Qin was already pregnant. Qiao Hongye originally wanted to throw the child away, but she was afraid of committing a sin. Feeling uneasy, she found a fortune teller to read her fortune. The fortune teller said that although she had a tough life, she was a lucky star for Yi Qin's child. She could block evil and protect her child's life of safety and wealth. Chapter 3. If the fortune teller had not said that, she might not have survived. But even if she died outside, it was better than being humiliated and tortured by the Qiao family in her previous life. Yunjiao, Hongye is your sister. How can an elder sister talk about her sister like that? You have good grades, but didn't you inherit my genes? Hongye is a good child. She has been giving in to you since you were young. Otherwise, how could you have gotten first place in school? Cough cough. Yi Qin finished speaking in one breath, and her face turned red. She had already resigned herself to her illness, but she was still worried about her son and daughter. She even suspected that the fortune teller had misnamed Jing Yunjiao, and that was why her lifespan was shortened. Mom, you're right. I did inherit your genes. Hongye inherited more from Dad. Look, I don't look like Hongye at all, Jing Yunjiao said deliberately. Yi Qin choked and glared at her. She felt that Yunjiao seemed to have taken the wrong medicine today. Her words were full of sarcasm, and it made her uncomfortable. Okay. When did you learn to be so talkative? You should learn from Hongye. Girls should be gentle and sensible. Otherwise, how can you find a husband in the future? Yi Qin was angry, and she felt more and more uncomfortable. Yi Qin's illness came suddenly. She usually did not feel uncomfortable, but one day, she was sent to the hospital. They found that she had a malignant tumor in her liver. After a period of treatment, it did not work. Moreover, her hair was gone, and she looked listless. The Qiao family was just an ordinary family. They did not have much money. When Yi Qin fell ill, they lost more than half of their savings. The doctor asked the family to prepare for her funeral. Yi Qin knew that she did not have long to live, so she insisted on moving back home. She did not want to die in the horrible hospital. Yi Qin's health did improve when she was at home, so she was even more unwilling to go back. Jing Yunjiao did not want to argue with her. She turned around and went to the kitchen to fill her stomach. She owed the Qiao family, but all the chores she had done for the Qiao family over the years, as well as the money she earned from working outside in her previous life, had been given to the Qiao family without leaving a single cent behind. In the end, she still ended up in such a miserable state. No matter what, it was enough. Moreover, her grades had been good since she was young. Even when she was in elementary school, she had participated in many competitions and won prizes. After that, she did not spend a single cent of her family's money. Usually, she had to eat and drink less. Why? As for the sweet porridge in the room, she did not dare to drink it. In her previous life, after eating that porridge, she vomited and had diarrhea and stayed at home for a week. In the past, she thought that everything she did was right and that she was happy in this family. But now, it was impossible for her to think that way. There wasn't much to eat at home, and Jing Yunjiao wasn't picky. He ate a little and began to plan for the future. Sister, isn't there porridge in the house? Why are you still going to the kitchen to scoop? Qiao Hongye was a little unhappy as she asked. I don't dare to drink cold porridge. What if I have diarrhea? Moreover, there's an exam on Monday. In the future, I won't touch such unsafe things. Jing Yunjiao replied with a deeper meaning. Qiao Hongye panicked. How can it be as bad as you say? You can have diarrhea just by drinking cold porridge? Sister, you're getting more and more delicate. Hongye, your body has always been very good and not delicate. Why don't you go and drink that porridge? Jing Yunjiao retorted. Jing Yunjiao, if you're afraid of diarrhea, why do you want Hongye to drink it? Are you trying to rebel today? Jing Yunjiao had just finished speaking when Qiao Weimin's angry roar came from behind. Chapter 4. Qiao Weimin was in his early 40s this year. Because he had a handsome appearance when he was young, he didn't forget to dress up even when he was old. No matter if he was at home or outside, he would always spray some perfume on his body, and his hair was even more glossy. However, his appearance was born from his heart. He was a lecherous person who would never change. He looked somewhat wretched, especially at his age, but he didn't have a single strand of beard on his face. Coupled with his smile, he looked like a eunuch. Dad, I was just asking sister a question out of goodwill. I didn't expect her to be so overbearing. Qiao Hongye didn't mind adding insult to injury. Her parents had long told her about Jing Yunjiao's background. If she was really her sister, then so be it. However, she was just a plaything that her mother picked up from the outside. Her mother said that Jing Yunjiao was used to block evil spirits for her. Since that was the case, she should have the awareness of a servant. Why did she want to suppress her in every aspect? The teachers in the school all said that the two daughters of the Qiao family were smart, especially Jing Yunjiao. Every time she heard this, her heart felt like it was being gnawed by thousands of ants. She hated that she couldn't tell everyone that Jing Yunjiao was just a lowly bastard. However, she knew that even if she said that, others would only say that Jing Yunjiao was strong and studious. She wasn't that stupid. Jing Yunjiao, go and drink that bowl of porridge. I've provided you with food and drinks. It's fine if you're picky, but you still bully your sister. You heartless ingrate, Qiao Weimin said angrily. However, a strange feeling flashed through his heart. This girl was painstakingly raised by him. Back then, she was just a skinny and ugly little girl. He didn't expect that she would become more and more beautiful as she grew up. Jing Yunjiao was a little taller than Qiao Hongye, but she was pitifully thin. However, she didn't neglect the areas that were supposed to be developing, so she looked exquisite. Moreover, she had a head full of long black hair, which complemented her skin very well. Compared to Qiao Hongye, who was a pretty daughter from a humble family, she was indeed much more imposing. It was a pity that Jing Yunjiao had suffered too much in her previous life. Especially in high school, when Qiao Hongye saw that she was popular with the boys, she secretly did a lot of things. The rumors about her outside were very unbearable. Moreover, after Yi Qin's death, she had to work after school. She had to do so many things by herself, so her skin slowly became worse and worse. Even her long hair was cut clean by Qiao Hongye in the end. Not only that, after she was sent to prison, Qiao Hongye still refused to let her off. She contacted the other prisoners and would shave off all of her hair as long as it grew out. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao was fuming with rage. Are you guys going to ignore the facts? It's been so many years. Even if you raise a dog, you should have feelings for it. I'm a living person, yet I'm worse than a dog. Pa. As soon as Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, Qiao Weiman slapped him across the face. Immediately, a clear red handprint appeared on his face. If she had been beaten in her previous life, she would have felt wronged and cried. But now, she was extremely clear-headed. Drink. If you don't drink today, I'll beat you to death today, Qiao Weiman said hatefully. Jing Yunjiao was clear that legally, Qiao Weiman and Yi Qin were her guardians. She was only 15 years old, so it was impossible for her to go out and establish her own family. Moreover, she had just been reborn today and didn't have time to make any preparations. Moreover, she was penniless. Under such circumstances, she couldn't go out rashly. She definitely had to leave, but she couldn't stand on the opposite side of public opinion. Back then, the Qiao family had ruined her reputation. In this life, no matter what, she had to take revenge for her previous life, and this slap, she would make good use of it. Chapter 5. Jing Yunjiao deeply swept her gaze over this family, sneered, and directly passed by the father and daughter. Where are you going? Qiao Weiman unhappily pulled her arm. Dad, didn't you tell me to eat porridge? I'll just drink it, Jing Yunjiao coldly said, directly flinging Qiao Weiman's hand to the side. She walked back to her room, looked at the bowl of sweet porridge that had already turned cold, and drank it in one gulp. It's just a stomachache, she won't die. Moreover, she'll wait until the day after tomorrow. Even if she doesn't have the strength, she'll still go for the exam as promised. What a cheap temper. You should be beaten 3 times a day before you stop. Qiao Weiman was satisfied. He glanced at her and returned to the sofa to continue watching TV. On the other hand, Qiao Hongye walked over with an apologetic look on her face. Unfortunately, before she could even step through the door, Jing Yunjiao had already slammed the door shut and locked it. Her body trembled, and her eyes were filled with hatred. She was too weak. With her current situation, don't talk about revenge, even protecting herself would be difficult. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and sat on the edge of the bed. She took out the jade pendant hanging around her neck. This jade was something she always carried with her since she was young. The style was actually very simple, just a small gourd. At the bottom of the gourd was the word Jing, and it looked very old. It was reasonable to say that this thing should have been snatched away by the Qiao family long ago. However, she later found out from Qiao Hongye that the fortune teller said that the jade had a spiritual nature. The jade she carried with her since she was young could suppress the evil aura on her body. If she lost it, not only could it not block the evil aura for Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou, it could also harm the people around her. If it wasn't for these words, this thing would have been sold by Yi Qin and Qiao Weiman long ago. Jing Yunjiao looked at the jade gourd and was momentarily lost in thought. She more or less had some doubts about her birth parents, but she immediately mocked herself. If her birth parents really cared about her, they wouldn't have abandoned her, right? Just as she was about to put the jade gourd back into her clothes, Jing Yunjiao suddenly felt a burst of pain in her head, as if something was suddenly peeled off. She held her head and struggled for a while, but the pain disappeared without a trace. But when he raised his head, he saw that the scenery around him had changed. Where is this? Jing Yunjiao was shocked. He was surrounded by a thick fog, and there was an ancient well beside him. It looked quite old, and there was a stone carving of a dragon head sitting beside the well. The dragon was spitting out streams of blue water, which should be the water from the well. I've waited for so many years. Finally, I've found my successor. An old voice sounded from the void. Jing Yunjiao's heart skipped a beat. Who? Little girl, you don't have to be afraid. Open the roulette on the stone table behind you, and you will naturally see this old man, the old man said again. Jing Yunjiao was extremely scared at this moment, but the voice was indeed very kind. She didn't know why, but she actually felt a sense of affinity towards this strange place, as if she was very familiar with it. Jing Yunjiao walked towards the stone table behind her. The table wasn't big, and there were strange patterns engraved on it. In the middle of the table, there was indeed a spinning roulette. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and reached out to spin the roulette. Suddenly, a shadow floated above the wheel, and Jing Yunjiao was startled. This shadow had a sage-like appearance and looked very kind. Old grandpa, you are, since you can enter the jade pot space, it proves that you are my descendant. Little girl, what is your name? The person looked at Jing Yunjiao and asked. Chapter 6. Jing Yunjiao was puzzled. Could this be her grandfather or great-grandfather? But why did he look like a phantom? Moreover, he said that this was the space of the jade pot. Was there really such a magical thing as a space in this world? Jing Yunjiao. Although she was suspicious, Jing Yunjiao still replied obediently. Little girl Yunjiao, logically speaking, you should be calling me old ancestor. My name is Jing He, and I was an outstanding doctor in a foreign land. 1,000 years ago, I came to this land by chance. I spent my whole life studying medicine and treating people. In the end, I only lived for 300 years and died of old age. I was supposed to reincarnate, but I was worried about my medical skills. Therefore, I used the space of the jade pot from this foreign land to seal a wisp of my remnant soul, waiting for a destined descendant to inherit it. The old man sighed. This space of the jade pot is very spiritual and requires the holder to have heaven-defying luck. Therefore, I have waited for hundreds of years. The old man added. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, fear, surprise, and all kinds of emotions flashed through her heart. Heaven-defying luck. She had lived a miserable life and died. She should have been an extremely unlucky person, but she had the chance to be reborn as a human. Was this the heaven-defying luck he was talking about? Gee, old grandpa, what you mean is, I'm the person you've been waiting for? Jing Yunjiao asked uncertainly. As for calling him old ancestor, she couldn't bring herself to say it out loud. That's right. This old man can see that your body is surrounded by positive yang energy. If this old man lived in a different world, your future would be limitless. However, in this place, I'm afraid that the opportunities for you to develop are few and far between. Yunjiao, are you willing to inherit this old man's medical skills? The old man asked. Jing Yunjiao was naturally willing. However, old grandpa, to tell you the truth, I have never studied medicine. She knew that most of the real national medicine practitioners started learning at a young age. She had never come into contact with it before. Now that the old man wanted to teach her, if he found out that she was a rotten wood, wouldn't it be a waste of his effort? When the old man heard this, he was overjoyed. No problem. As long as you're willing, this old man has his ways. Jing Yunjiao was half convinced and half doubtful, but since the old man had already said so, she naturally agreed and quickly nodded her head. This old man's medical skills must be extraordinary. If he could learn even a little bit of it, he would benefit immensely. After the old man saw that she had agreed, he reached out and moved the roulette on the table twice. In an instant, the roulette on the stone table extended upwards, and there was a hidden compartment inside. In the hidden compartment, there was a scroll that emitted a green fluorescent light. This is. The green light was lustrous and extremely mystical. This book contains everything I've learned in my life. Don't think that this book slip is small and doesn't contain much content. This book slip is made from spirit jade that I brought from another world. There are a total of 99 pieces. Start reading from the first piece. Every time you take out a new jade piece, you have to drip a drop of blood into it. Then, these things will be engraved in your mind. You can only continue after you've completely absorbed and memorized everything, the old man explained. At this time, Jing Yunzhao's frightened heart had slowly calmed down. After all, she could be reborn. Was there anything in this world that was impossible? Thank you, Jing Yunzhao said gratefully. You're my descendant. There's no need to thank me. Remember, don't bite off more than you can chew. You can only absorb one piece at a time. Don't be greedy. Otherwise, your brain won't be able to hold so much information. You'll either be stupid or crazy. In addition, this space can be used to plant some medicinal herbs. The spring water has the effect of hastening growth, but it can't be taken out of the space or stored. As for the degree of hastening growth, it depends on the concentration of the spring water. Finally, and most importantly, people in this world are fickle. This jade pot cannot be known to outsiders, and you can't bring any outsiders in. Chapter 7. After the old man finished speaking, the shadow gradually faded away. Jing Yunzhao immediately had a bad premonition. She hurriedly knelt down and said, Junior will definitely follow old ancestors' teachings. If I go against it, I will die a horrible death. All right, I've already said what needs to be said. You're on your own now. Oh right, the time in this space is 5 times slower than outside. You don't need to panic when you go out. As for the way in and out, it's simple. You just need to concentrate. After speaking, the shadow completely disappeared. Jing Yunzhao firmly remembered all the words in her heart. She kowtowed heavily towards the place where the shadow disappeared. The heavens took pity on her and allowed her to live a different life in this life. Pursing her lips, Jing Yunzhao stood up from the ground and followed the old ancestor's instructions. Sure enough, when she opened her eyes again, she was back in her room. However, at the same time, her stomach rumbled. She suddenly remembered the bowl of porridge she drank before entering the space. Her stomach was in turmoil. If she remembered correctly, she would have to endure the pain of diarrhea for the entire night. Moreover, she would have a fever the next morning because of the night's disturbance. She would fall ill for more than a week. Moreover, it was within this week that Yi Qin passed away. She didn't even have the strength to attend the funeral. This caused the Qiao family and Yi family's relatives and friends to criticize her for a long time. Later on, even when she was wronged, no one cared about her. Jing Yunzhao painfully clutched her stomach and rushed out of the room. However, she found that the bathroom was tightly shut. There was obviously someone inside. Elder sister? Sorry, my stomach doesn't feel well. You can wait outside. Qiao Hongye's voice clearly carried a trace of a smile. In her previous life, she didn't make a fuss and drank the porridge, so this didn't happen. However, now, Jing Yunzhao had no other choice. She thought of the space and could only return to her room and enter again. However, in the space, the abdominal pain wasn't so obvious. After thinking for a while, Jing Yunzhao took out the bamboo slip and dripped a drop of blood on the first jade slip. In an instant, the green light gathered, and Jing Yunzhao suddenly felt her vision blur. It was as if words were constantly being arranged and combined. In the blink of an eye, they drilled into her mind, and there were many strange things in her mind. She had never felt that her brain could be controlled in such a way. Those words seemed to be more profound than anything else. As long as she thought about it, it would automatically appear. However, when he briefly recalled these things, his heart was truly shocked. No wonder the ancestor told him not to be greedy. This piece of spirit jade contained more than 1,000 books. Qiao Hongye's porridge was filled with some diarrhea medicine. Jing Yunzhao continuously searched through her mind and indeed found many treatment prescriptions. However, she still felt somewhat helpless in her heart. The prescriptions were all good stuff, but she didn't have anything right now. Where could she go to find the medicine? After finding it, he would even need a vessel to decoct the medicine in the space. Of course, she could buy the seeds, but the problem was that she was penniless. Distant water could not put out a nearby fire. Whether it was Chinese medicine or Western medicine, it was useless to her at this time. Jing Yunzhao's heart was in a mess, but he forced himself to think calmly. Sure enough, other things appeared in his mind. Acupoint massage. 5 fingers together, gently massage the abdomen, lower wrist, Tianshu, Guanyuan, Changyu, Shusanli, and other acupoints. Then, with his palm or thumb, he massaged the Qi Si. Jing Yunzhao hurriedly followed the instructions in the jade until she felt that the area she was massaging was a little sore. Only then did she feel that the discomfort in her abdomen was a lot better. Her heart was filled with joy as she continued to massage. Not long after, she became calmer and more relaxed. Thinking of Qiao Hongye, who was still waiting outside the bathroom, Jing Yunzhao smiled coldly. She liked to stay in the bathroom so much. Well then, it's best if she doesn't come out tonight. Chapter 8. Jing Yunzhao left the space and pretended to be anxious. She hurriedly went out and knocked on the bathroom door. Hongyi, come out quickly. I can't take it anymore, Jing Yunzhao said deliberately. When Hongyi heard that, she refused to open the door. Sister, I think I ate something bad today. My stomach is really uncomfortable. You can go somewhere else to settle it. Somewhere else. The Qiao family wasn't a rich family, and they only had one bathroom. How could Qiao Hongyi not know the amount of medicine she put in? If she really went downstairs with her previous diarrhea, she probably wouldn't be able to walk far before her clothes would be dirty. Jing Yunzhao's stomach was fine now, so she naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to get angry with this kind of person. She only said outside, then. I'll wait for you. She was sure that as long as she said that, Qiao Hongyi would definitely stay in the bathroom and refuse to come out. As expected, when Jing Yunzhao returned to the house, there was still no movement in the bathroom. Almost every 10 minutes, Jing Yunzhao would knock on the door again, and her words became more and more pleading. Qiao Hongyi inside was a little puzzled. Logically speaking, after such a long time, Jing Yunzhao should have been unable to endure it, but why was she still only feeling uncomfortable? But no matter what, Jing Yunzhao must be feeling extremely uncomfortable right now. Since she could endure it so well, then she would endure it forever. This family didn't know what Qiao Hongyi and Jing Yunzhao were up to, especially when Qiao Weimin drank a little too much at night. He was very anxious, but Qiao Hongyi still refused to come out. No matter how kind Qiao Weimin was to his biological daughter, he couldn't bear it anymore. Damn girl, you're laying eggs in there. Hurry up and come out. Qiao Weimin reeked of alcohol. Even through the door, Qiao Hongyi could feel his anger. Qiao Hongyi always had the image of an obedient child at home. She could occasionally cause trouble for Jing Yunzhao, but it was impossible for her to brazenly do something disobedient. After all, in her eyes, reputation was extremely important. With Qiao Weimin's roar, Qiao Hongyi opened the door almost instantly. Qiao Weimin also pulled her to the side. Qiao Hongye's strength was weak, so she immediately hit the wall and fell to the ground. Her fall was not light. Hongye, what's wrong with you? Why can't you stand properly? Jing Yunzhao moved to the door of his bedroom and mocked. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao was calm and unperturbed, completely unlike the way he was begging her before. He looked as if he wasn't affected by that bowl of porridge at all, causing Qiao Hongye to be stunned. She subconsciously asked, "Why are you fine?" "My stomach was a little uncomfortable just now, but it's fine now. As for you, you stayed in the bathroom for so long. Is there any special reason?" Jing Yunzhao sneered. When Qiao Hongye heard this, she stifled a breath of air in her chest. She stumbled to get up from the ground and ran into her room. It was only a few steps, but she almost fell again. But it was no wonder. She had stayed in the bathroom for a few hours. It would be strange if her legs were still nimble. Jing Yunzhao looked at her sorry state, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. This was just a small fight, and it would never be enough. The night was as usual. Occasionally, Yi Qin's painful moans due to her illness could be heard from the master bedroom. There were moans and Qiao Weimin's snoring, but Qiao Hongyi surprisingly didn't move. Yi Qin's illness was currently not within her capabilities, so Jing Yunzhao didn't think of treating her illness. That night and the next day, she stayed in the space, carefully reading the contents of the medical book she had previously absorbed. Chapter 9. Even for a newbie like Jing Yunjiao, the basics of medicine were a bit difficult. Fortunately, those things were already engraved in her mind. Whenever there was something she didn't understand, she just had to think about it carefully and the explanation would automatically appear in her mind. One day and one night had passed in the outside world, but 5 days had already passed in the space. Jing Yunjiao felt that after absorbing the spirit jade, her understanding had improved a lot. As a result, her progress was also very fast. She could no longer be considered to be ignorant of some simple medicinal herbs. Monday was the day to return to school. Jing Yunjiao and the Qiao siblings went to the same school, and this school was one of the best in the whole of Huaning County. Jing Yunjiao lived in Ning County town, and the number of students who relied on their own ability to get into this school was pitifully small. However, Jing Yunjiao was admitted with high scores. Not only was she exempted from all tuition and miscellaneous fees, she also received a generous scholarship. Her reputation was also very resounding. From the town to the county town, it was more than an hour's drive. Jing Yunjiao wore a mask along the way, and her long hair was a bit messy. The clothes she wore were always discarded by Qiao Hongye. She didn't need to specially disguise herself. As soon as she entered the school, there were people pointing and whispering. However, Jing Yunjiao knew that these people's reactions weren't because of her current outfit, but because of the fact that she was with those hooligans 2 days ago after school. Jing Yunjiao. The teacher wants you to go to her office before the exam. As soon as she entered the class, someone said mockingly. Jing Yunjiao had already guessed it in her heart. In her previous life, she had a stomachache. After Yi Qin passed away, she had no choice but to drop out of school. This led to this matter becoming a stain on her record, and she didn't have any chance to explain it. However, her class teacher was actually more concerned about her. She didn't believe that she was such a person. Unfortunately, when she dropped out of school and the teacher came to persuade her, there were too many rumors in the town, so she had no choice but to believe it. Jing Yunjiao didn't stay and turned to leave. Behind her, the mocking and ridiculing voices of her classmates suddenly sounded. TSK, pretending to be virtuous. You didn't see how intimate those hooligans were with her on Friday. Also, I heard that she usually relies on those hooligans to bully her sister. Aren't they sisters? That's impossible. What do you know? Jing Yunjiao is his mother's burden when she got married. They don't have the same father. Also, look at her. Does she look like an elder sister? Every time during the exam, he had to leave Qiao Hongye in the dust. I've never seen anyone more shameless than her. Jing Yunjiao had heard such words many times in the past, but he pretended not to hear them. Because today was the monthly exam, the office was filled with students' books. The teachers were also very quiet. The moment Jing Yunjiao entered the classroom, a few teachers secretly looked at him. Jing Yunjiao was in class 1. The head teacher was a female teacher with the surname Jin. She wore a pair of glasses and had short hair. She was quite young, about 28 or 29 years old. Upon seeing Jing Yunjiao, teacher Jin also revealed a complicated expression. She pushed up her glasses and waved at her, indicating for her to come over. Teacher Jin, Jing Yunjiao greeted politely. Teacher Jin sighed. Jing Yunjiao, do you know why I'm looking for you? I have a rough idea. But Teacher Jin, I also have something to talk to you about. Jing Yunjiao said as he took off the mask on his face. Half of his face was still red and swollen. It was obvious that he had been beaten up. Teacher Jin was shocked. What happened to your face? A good student was beaten up. Who did it? How could this be? Chapter 10. Qiao Weimin had used a lot of strength when he hit her. If it wasn't for the fact that she had been hit a lot since she was a child, she probably wouldn't have been able to take it. She didn't do anything for the past 2 days at home so that the teachers could see her face clearly. Moreover, in the space, the pain on her body would lessen, but the injuries on her body would remain the same. That was why it was so eye-catching. Teacher, I was stopped by a group of hooligans when I left school on Friday night. They surrounded me and didn't let me go. They pretended to be very familiar with me and then dragged me to a small alley. Fortunately, a policeman passed by. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened. However, it was my bad luck that I was targeted. Other than those hooligans, I don't blame anyone else. But I don't know who spread the rumors in school that I hooked up with a group of hooligans. Then the injuries on your face were caused by those people? Teacher Jin frowned and asked. The injuries weren't light. It had been 2 or 3 days. Not only were they red and swollen, but there were also faint bruises. It could be seen that the person who hit her was ruthless. No. At that time, those people scared me. In the end, I fainted. This injury. Jing Yunjiao's face showed some sadness and she continued, it was my dad who hit me. When she said that, the teachers present suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. Jing Yunjiao was the student with the best grades in number 1 middle school. Her family background was also a hot topic. All the teachers knew that she had a stepfather called Qiao Weimin. If he was her biological father, how could he be so ruthless? Teacher Jin suddenly stood up. He hit you. Why did he hit you? Jing Yunjiao, tell me what happened. Did you do something wrong to make your father angry? It's nothing. It's just a bowl of porridge. The porridge was cold. I was afraid that if I drank it, my stomach would feel uncomfortable and it would affect today's exam. So, I filled it with hot porridge. My dad was angry and slapped me and told me to finish the porridge, Jing Yunjiao said casually as if this matter was insignificant in her eyes. But in the ears of the teachers, it was different. How could an elder make a junior drink cold porridge? Was Jing Yunjiao treated so poorly at home? He couldn't even drink a mouthful of hot porridge? That. Jing Yunjiao, didn't your mother stop him? And your brothers and sisters? Teacher Jin asked doubtfully. Jing Yunjiao sniffed and said, my mom's health isn't good. She can't care so much. Besides, it's just a small matter. Eating a bowl of porridge won't kill anyone. Even if my mom knows, she won't say anything. Ms. Jin, I'm already used to the things happening at home. It's fine. But those hooligans. I don't want something like this to happen again. She was only 15 years old this year. Other than her family, the only thing she could rely on was her school. If she foolishly called the police, she would only be laughed at in the end. Seeing the light in Jing Yunjiao's eyes, Teacher Jin's heart suddenly trembled. This child had never liked to talk in school. For some reason, the students had a lot of gossip about her. Most of them said that she was arrogant and so on. But strangely, the teachers in school liked her very much. She was quiet and hardworking. They had never seen her bully or despise anyone. If it weren't for her outstanding grades, she probably wouldn't have made her presence felt. Don't worry. The school won't sit by and do nothing about such a big matter. Go back and prepare for the exam. I'll discuss it with the headmaster. We'll definitely call the police. The same thing can't happen again. Chapter 11. Jing Yunjiao hurriedly nodded at Teacher Jin's words. However, before she could walk out of the office, the phone on Teacher Jin's desk rang. Hearing the voice on the phone, Teacher Jin's face darkened. After a while, she said, Jing Yunjiao, don't take the exam this time. Call your sister and go to the county hospital together. Your mother's condition isn't good right now. Jing Yunjiao was also stunned. She didn't expect Yi Qin to have an accident so early. In her previous life, she couldn't come to school. Naturally, only Qiao Hongye was informed. She had a fever and was in a daze at home. She didn't even know what was going on outside. She originally thought that it would take a day. Now, it seemed that Yi Qin didn't pass away immediately after being admitted to the hospital. Thinking of Yi Qin, Jing Yunjiao's heart was filled with mixed feelings. No matter why Yi Qin took her in, she had raised her for so many years. In the past, she had always thought of Yi Qin as her biological mother. Therefore, there was still a mother-daughter relationship. In the entire Qiao family, she only had resentment towards Yi Qin. Jing Yunjiao didn't dare to stay. She hurriedly went to the next class to call Qiao Hongye. Seeing her like that, she couldn't help but think of her previous life. After she fell ill, Qiao Hongye excitedly went to take the exam. She thought that she would definitely get first place this time. She didn't expect that she wouldn't be able to take the exam as she wished. That kind of feeling made Xiao Hongya angry for a long time. The county hospital wasn't far from the school. When Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Hongya arrived, Yi Qin was lying on the bed with a gloomy face. It seemed like she could die at any time. Qiao Weimin's face was gloomy. The moment he saw Jing Yunjiao, a trace of deep meaning flashed across his eyes. "Hongya, I'm afraid your mother won't be able to make it this time," Qiao Weimin whispered. Jing Yunjiao was somewhat mocking in her heart. Yi Qin's illness had been going on for quite some time. It had cost the family a lot of money and tormented the old and young in the family. In terms of grief, she had already recovered a few months ago when she was found to be sick. Now, the three of them were probably relieved. They couldn't wait for Yi Qin to die, right? "Dad, I know a prescription. If you try to boil the medicine, maybe it can help Mom recover a little." Jing Yunjiao thought about it and said. When she was in the space, she spent a lot of time looking for a prescription. However, she couldn't find a complete treatment method in the first piece of spirit jade. She could only roughly understand the cause of the disease. At most, she could adjust the mechanism so that she wouldn't die so quickly. Although she couldn't cure the root of the problem, with her current learning speed, as long as she worked hard, there was still a chance for her to completely cure Yi Qin's illness. After all, not only did the old ancestor have 300 years of medical experience, but he also came from a different world. She could tell from the things in the spirit jade that his methods were probably more miraculous than the average doctor. "You! What the hell do you know? I think you're asking for a beating." How could Qiao Weimin listen to her? He raised his hand and was about to hit her again. "Stop!" A familiar voice came from the door of the ward. Teacher Jin hurriedly dragged Jing Yunjiao over. "Mr. Qiao, you are an elder. How can you hit people for no reason?" She was worried just now, so she followed behind. She didn't expect Qiao Weimin to really be like this. He was going to hit her just because of a disagreement. Although Jing Yunjiao's words couldn't be trusted, her mother was seriously ill. She was probably desperate. Her filial piety was commendable, but she still had to be hit. What kind of rule was this? Qiao Weimin also cared about his face. He glanced at Teacher Jin and withdrew his hand. "Teacher Jin, this little girl always likes to talk nonsense. If you don't hit her, she won't learn her lesson." Chapter 12. "Dad, I'm doing this for Mom's good. If you don't trust my prescription, you can take it to the doctor. If they say it's not effective, then it's not too late for you to say that," Jing Yunjiao said. She saved Yi Qin to repay her for bringing her up. If she saved her and Yi Qin was still the same as before, then she wouldn't care about the so-called feelings of bringing her up anymore. Qiao Weimin snorted when he heard that. Not to mention that this brat's prescription was unreliable. Even if it could really save her, he wouldn't agree. Yi Qin's illness had been dragging on for more than a day or two. He had spent more than 200,000 yuan on it. If she was half dead, who would pay for the rest of the money? He married a wife who would give birth to his children and warm his bed, not a sick person who would drag him down. "Enough. You're getting better at bullshitting. Get out." Qiao Weimin didn't want to give Teacher Jin any face and shouted directly. The ward was supposed to be quiet. When he shouted, the people around him shook their heads. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath. She knew that there was no point in staying here, so she simply left the ward. "Jing Yunjiao, you're so young. What prescription did you bring? You weren't lying just now, were you?" Teacher Jin asked unhappily. "How about this, teacher? Come with me to the doctor. The doctor will decide whether I'm lying or not." After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she didn't wait for Teacher Jin's response and directly dragged her to the doctor. Yi Qin's attending doctor was a Western doctor. He might not be able to understand the prescription, so Jing Yunjiao went to the hospital's most famous traditional Chinese doctor. The traditional Chinese doctor was in his 60s or 70s and had a reputation. Jing Yunjiao had seen him when she came to the hospital with Yi Qin. Yi Qin had also come here to see him when she was anxious. The traditional Chinese doctor also gave her a few prescriptions, but at the same time, He told her that the illness needed 30% treatment and 70% recovery. Yi Qin was afraid that she would die too early. After a few days, she didn't believe it and turned to Western medicine. When she knew that Western medicine couldn't save her, she came back. However, she had already missed the opportunity to treat her, and the traditional Chinese doctor couldn't help her. "Young lady, you look very familiar." The old Chinese doctor glanced at her and asked, "Dr. Gan, I'm Jing Yunjiao. My mother is Yi Qin, the one who came to see you before." Jing Yunjiao took out a piece of paper from his pocket and explained, "It's like this. My mother is in critical condition right now. I've found a prescription, and I want you to see if it can improve her condition." Dr. Gan looked at him curiously. Strange things happened every year, but this year, there were more than usual. Usually, there were many people who came to him for treatment, but this was the first time someone had asked him to look at a prescription. However, he also remembered this girl. She was a very filial child. When her mother was hospitalized, she was busy taking care of her and left a deep impression on the doctors in the hospital. The old man took the prescription and opened it to take a look. However, the moment he took a look, his face froze. "Little lass, where did you get this prescription?" "It was my master who taught me. It's just that master has been wandering around, so I don't know much. I can only delay the illness for a while, but I can't cure it completely." Jing Yunjiao found an excuse and said nervously. This was the first time she used the prescription taught by her ancestors. She didn't know if it was the right prescription. "You can't cure it, but I can. As long as you follow this prescription and take it for 7 days, your condition will definitely improve. Then, you can use my medicine." Dr. Gan's eyes were filled with excitement. He was really stupid. Why didn't he think of using this medicine? Teacher Jin was completely shocked by Dr. Gan's words. She didn't know what to say. "Let's go and see your mother," the old doctor hurriedly said. Chapter 13. The three of them rushed to the ward. Qiao Weimin from the Qiao family was talking to the doctor. "Dr. Wang, you said that there's a chance for her to recover. We've spent so much money, and my wife is about to die. Isn't the hospital going to give us an explanation?" "Mr. Qiao, I only said that there's a chance. I didn't expect the illness to spread so quickly. After all, everyone has different physiques," the doctor explained. "I don't care. I still have the medicine you prescribed at home. Those medicines are all imported. Now she can't take them. You have to return this medicine to me." Qiao Weimin knew that the hospital would not compensate him. What he wanted was to return the medicine. Imported medicine easily cost thousands of yuan. He had so much at home. If he could buy them, he would make a profit. "Then, fine. Bring back the untouched medicine, and I'll deal with it for you." Dr. Wang could only agree. Dr. Gan shook his head and walked over. "Mr. Qiao, right? I've seen the prescription your daughter sent over. It's definitely feasible. Do you think we should go get the medicine now?" Dr. Gan said. "What do you mean?" Qiao Weimin was confused. Jing Yunjiao was just a bastard who stayed at home every day and never left the house. How could her prescription be used? Wasn't that a joke? It's simple. The patient can be saved. As long as you drink the medicine according to the prescription, there's a chance of survival. Dr. Gan continued to explain. However, Qiao Weimin's eyebrows furrowed again and again. After a while, he finally opened his mouth. "This prescription is Jing Yunjiao's, right?" "Yes." Dr. Gan didn't deny it. "If that's the case, I don't agree," Qiao Weimin said coldly. He continued, "You doctors, just a moment ago, you said that there's no hope for her. We're already waiting for death. Now you've come up with some lousy prescription, and it's even provided by my daughter. If that's the case, why don't we let my daughter treat her from the beginning? Besides, she's just a little girl. She's not even an adult yet. Can you take responsibility if something goes wrong with her prescription? The patient is already in such a state. It can't get any worse. Why don't we give it a try?" Dr. Gan didn't expect the patient to be so difficult to deal with. Usually, patients would come to him for prescriptions. This was the first time he was so thick-skinned as to beg someone. Give it a try. Why should he try? My wife can finally be free after suffering so much. Do you want her to die without peace? Anne. Dr. Wang, you're my wife's attending physician. What's going on with this old man? Qiao Weimin asked again. Dr. Wang was a young doctor who had just returned from studying abroad. He had a bright future ahead of him, but at this moment, he was also a little unhappy. After all, this patient had been sentenced to death by him. If he was saved by someone else, wouldn't his reputation be ruined in the future? Dr. Gan, I respect that you are an elder, but isn't this a bit against the rules? Moreover, the family members have already said that they don't need it. If you continue to insist, it wouldn't be too good, right? Dr. Wang said with a smile. Dr. Gan was filled with anger. He had never seen such an unreasonable family member before. He, Gan Songbai, was also a reputable figure in this hospital. He had already confirmed that the prescription could save lives, yet he was still abandoned like a worn-out shoe. Furthermore, having lived to this age, he was quite good at judging people. Did Qiao Weimin not believe that the prescription could save lives? No, he just didn't want to save them. He wanted to practice medicine, but the other party wasn't willing. What could he do? Suddenly, he sighed deeply and turned around to leave the room. Before he left, he glanced at Jing Yunjiao and said, "Little girl, if your father isn't willing to treat you, then I can't do anything about it. I think you should just accept your fate." Jing Yunjiao nodded. "I understand. Thank you, Dr. Gan." Similarly, she had already extended her kindness, but the other party didn't accept it. That had nothing to do with her. From now on, she didn't owe the Qiao family anything. It was her turn to collect debt. Chapter 14. Qiao Weimin's actions angered the old doctor, Gan Songbai, and also angered Teacher Jin. Teacher Jin was young, but she was warm-hearted. She sympathized with Jing Yunjiao and was even more worried about her future. With her biological mother dead, how was she going to survive in this family that was like a wolf or a tiger? Although she still had a pair of younger siblings, Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou just looked on coldly from the sidelines. They didn't seem to be close to Jing Yunjiao at all. Teacher Jin took note of this, but she had no choice. She comforted Jing Yunjiao for a while before returning to school. Yi Qin only had one breath left, so she naturally spent the night in the hospital. Qiao Weimin was a male chauvinist and never liked to take care of others, but he was worried that Jing Yunjiao would secretly use the prescription when no one else was around, so he stayed in the hospital to watch over her for the first time. Qiao Hongye cared about her reputation, so she was naturally there. On the other hand, Qiao Zizhou, who was spoiled since childhood, couldn't take it anymore at 11 o'clock in the morning. He didn't care about what others thought and went straight home to rest. The next afternoon, a deathly aura came from the ward. Under the white cloth was Yi Qin's lifeless face. Jing Yunjiao sighed. She could only blame Yi Qin for finding such an unreliable husband. Yi Qin's funeral was very simple. Close relatives and friends came to offer their condolences, and the family received the guests. After a few days of chaos, everyone looked exhausted. After the funeral ended, everyone let out a sigh of relief. At home, Qiao Weimin finally didn't have to pretend to be mournful. He drank wine with a relaxed face. At the dinner table, Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou were a little sad, but after such a long time of torment, they couldn't take it anymore and also relaxed. "Dad, how about Zizhou and I go to school tomorrow? We've fallen behind in class, so we might not be able to catch up if we're late." Qiao Hongye tried to curry favor. Qiao Weimin's face was red from the wine. He nodded dizzily and said, "Go, go, all three of you go. Dad, Mom won't be home in the future, so there's no one to take care of the household chores. Also, Mom's illness has cost us quite a bit of money. It must be very difficult to support the three of us in school now. It's all my fault for being too young, I can't help share Dad's burden." Qiao Hongye said apologetically. Jing Yunjiao raised her eyebrows and sneered. If she remembered correctly, Qiao Hongye was only a year younger than her. Moreover, how could she not understand what she meant by that? Didn't he just want her, who was already so old, To drop out of school and take care of this family at home? When Yi Qin was still around, she also had the intention of asking her to leave school. The reason why she gave up on that idea was because she didn't need to spend money to go to school. On the other hand, she was worried that others would gossip about her. Many people knew that Jing Yunzhao's grades were good. If she dropped out of school under such circumstances, people would definitely say that she treated her children differently. Gossip was a fearful thing. Yi Qin naturally didn't want to be pointed at by others. Good girl, you're a good child. It was a pity that Qiao Weimin was currently drunk, so he simply couldn't understand Qiao Hongyi's meaning. Qiao Hongyi originally wanted to make it clear, but seeing her father like this, she was afraid that he would forget about it the next day, so she simply endured it. Early the next morning, she could only watch as Jing Yunzhao went out first, stomping her feet in anger behind his back. After thinking about it, Qiao Hongyi directly rushed into Qiao Weimin's room. The smell of alcohol in the room immediately made her frown. She saw Qiao Weimin lying on the bed in his underwear. The windows were tightly shut, and the room was in a mess. Qiao Hongyi loved cleanliness, so she felt a little disgusted when she saw this scene. However, he was still her father after all. Qiao Hongyi exhaled and went forward to shout, "Dad! Hurry and get up!" Chapter 15. Qiao Weimin's head felt like it was going to split open, and he was a little irritated. "Damn brat, calling my soul so early in the morning. If you have something to say, say it quickly, don't disturb my sleep." Qiao Hongye felt sullen in her heart, but she couldn't do anything to Qiao Weimin. She could only brace herself and say, "Dad, Sis and I took leave for so many days, and we didn't need to go to class today. As long as we could go to school at night, it would be fine. But Sis left so early, do you think she went to see those hooligans again?" Qiao Hongye had been taking leave at home, but she didn't know that those hooligans had been arrested yesterday. The school didn't inform Jing Yunzhao because she had just lost her mother, and because she was a student. But as long as she arrived at school, the teacher would definitely take her to the police station to identify the hooligans. Qiao Weimin opened his eyes in a daze. "You said your sister already left?" Qiao Hongye quickly nodded. "It's only 7 o'clock now, even if she took a leisurely ride to the county, it wouldn't be past 9 o'clock. Dad, do you think Sis fell in love with one of those hooligans? Otherwise, why would she be in such a hurry to leave?" "Oh right, rice isn't cooked." For so many years, Jing Yunzhao was the one who took care of the family's meals and chores. But these days, it was very strange. Because there were more people coming to the house recently, Jing Yunzhao cooked the meals as usual, and it was done very well. Her relatives and friends all praised her, but she didn't do the chores. Because there were so many things to do, she and her father didn't care. But today, it was serious. Jing Yunzhao woke up at 5 or 6 o'clock and went to the kitchen. She thought that she would be able to eat a hot meal after waking up, but she didn't expect that there wasn't a single drop of porridge left in the pot. Jing Yunzhao only made enough porridge for herself. Not only that, the clothes she threw to Jing Yunzhao last night were all left at the door today, and Jing Yunzhao actually didn't wash them for her. Compared to before, this difference was hard for Qiao Hongye to bear. Let alone Qiao Hongye, even Qiao Zizhou, who rarely paid attention to Jing Yunzhao, couldn't stand it and cursed a few times in the house. When Qiao Weimin heard this, his mind cleared up. With a gloomy face, he said after a while, "Hongyi, go and prepare the meal first. As for that girl Yunzhao, I will definitely beat her to death when she comes back. You're dating a hooligan at such a young age. You don't learn anything good." When Qiao Hongye heard that he wanted her to cook, she was a little unhappy, but after thinking about it, she took advantage of the situation and said, "Dad, the people at school are all saying that Big Sis is being kept by those hooligans. Seeing her fall so low, I feel really sad. How about you let her go home and reflect for a period of time, and let her draw a clear line between her and those hooligans?" Qiao Hongye's heartbeat quickened. Even in her dreams, she wanted Jing Yunzhao to return home. Without Jing Yunzhao, she would be the number one in the entire school in both name and in reality. No one would say that she was inferior to that bastard. When Qiao Weimin heard this, he glanced at his daughter. No one knew what he was thinking. After a few seconds, he nodded and said, Your suggestion isn't bad. I raised that girl for so many years. I didn't send her to school so that she could seduce men. I'll accompany you to school in the afternoon and bring her home on the way. Qiao Weiman couldn't help but think of that delicate and exquisite figure. He actually felt an unbearable impulse in his body. His wife was dead, and in the future, he would definitely marry a second wife. However, he was also clear in his heart that the woman he would marry would definitely not be young and pleasant. Moreover, he raised Jing Yunjiao for so many years. No matter what, he shouldn't let others take advantage of him. Even if he couldn't do anything, he could at least watch at home. Chapter 16. Of course, Qiao Hongye wasn't aware of Qiao Weiman's dirty thoughts. When she thought about how Jing Yunjiao wouldn't bother her in school, her mood improved a lot. She even obediently made breakfast according to Qiao Weiman's request. However, Qiao Hongye had never done any household chores, so the food she made was naturally hard to swallow. She was once again reprimanded by Qiao Weiman. At this time, Jing Yunjiao had already arrived at the county town. Other than the money for the ride, she only had a few dozen yuan. Her scholarship was limited, and her family didn't give her any living expenses. Occasionally, she would tutor primary school students or junior high school students to earn some extra money, but her life was still tight. However, this time, she found a way to earn money. These few days, her family was extremely busy with the funeral. Many fruits at home were wasted and spoiled. She took advantage of the time when the Qiao family members weren't around to save the apple and orange seeds. At night, she entered the space to try planting them. The results were pretty good. The water flowing from the dragon head statue in the space had a hastening effect, but the degree had to be controlled every time. If she wanted to accelerate the ripening of these ordinary fruits, the ratio of water to Lonko spring water was 500:1. If it was too much, although the fruit tree wouldn't die, the apples it grew would be abnormally big. If it was brought outside, it would definitely cause a lot of commotion. Moreover, she originally thought that the water flowing from the dragon head statue was well water, but after experimenting, she found out that it wasn't. The water in the ancient well was very ordinary, and could be directly used for drinking. There was no need to go outside to get water from other sources. It was very convenient. After getting off the car, Jing Yunjiao found a remote place and took out the basket she had prepared in the space. Inside was a basket full of apples, and this basket was made from apple branches that had drunk an excessive amount of Lonko spring water. It was very tough. It was just that this 100 jin thing was very heavy to carry on her back. Fortunately, the place she wanted to go wasn't far. Not long after, she put down the heavy burden and set up a stall. The oranges' selling price was on the low side. She was in urgent need of money, so she still left them in the space. These apples were all red and round. They looked much better than the ones sold in the supermarket, so they would definitely sell well. In less than 10 minutes, sure enough, someone came over. "How much is this apple?" The person touched the apple with a face full of fondness. He leaned closer to smell it and felt that this apple had a sweet and fresh smell. It was not like other apples that were stained with all kinds of pesticides, and the color of the apple was a little strange. All the necessities of the Qiao family were purchased by Jing Yunjiao, so he knew the general price. "Auntie, the apples are 6 yuan per kilo." Jing Yunjiao smiled and said politely. Although it wasn't cheap, the quality of the apples was good. At the same price, it was much better than other apples. The woman was curious about this young female stall owner. When she heard her polite voice, she had a good impression of Jing Yunjiao. Without hesitation, she picked up more than 10 apples and put them away. These apples were generally larger in size. Although there were not many apples, Jing Yunjiao earned 30 yuan in the blink of an eye. With this woman taking the lead, the business became even better. In a short span of 3 to 4 hours, the basket was completely cleaned out. Touching the 700 yuan in his pocket, Jing Yunjiao's heart was filled with a trace of excitement. In her previous life, she had lived for so many years. She had always lived for others. She had done a lot of work outside, but she was still penniless. And in this life, she was destined to not live like before. Chapter 17. Under the envy of the stall owners, Jing Yunjiao packed up her things and left. She was clear that she was still a child. This method of earning money was fine once in a while, but if she continued to do it for a long time, it would definitely attract the envy of others. However, in the book given by the ancestor, there was a cultivation method for cultivating one's body. She had practiced in the space for a few days, and her physique had improved a little. However, it was still not enough to protect herself, so she still had to be careful. "Little girl, were you the one who sold the apples just now?" Jing Yunjiao had only taken a few steps when she heard a familiar old voice from behind her. Jing Yunjiao turned her head and saw the old doctor, Gan Songbai, who she had previously consulted at the hospital. The old man was dressed in traditional Chinese attire and looked like he was out for a stroll. It was completely different from his working attitude at the hospital. "Dr. Gan, why are you here?" Jing Yunjiao politely nodded her head and asked. "My daughter sent some fruits over just now, and the neighbors all thought that they were good. In the blink of an eye, they were all sold out. As the owner, I haven't even had the chance to eat them yet." The old doctor smiled. "My daughter had something to do and left, so I could only come and take a look myself. I heard that it was a girl who looked to be around 15 or 16 years old. I didn't expect it to be you." Dr. Gan was very curious. This girl shouldn't be even 16 years old, but she was already making money by herself. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt a little sad. Her father was obviously a profit-minded person. When his wife was seriously ill, all he thought about was those imported medicines. He even had the opportunity to save his wife's life, but he didn't even agree. He really couldn't understand how a man like that could have such a sensible daughter. Jing Yunjiao also had a good impression of the old doctor. "Today's apples have all been sold out. How about I send you some tomorrow at noon? I still haven't thanked you for what you did last time. It's just a small matter, there's no need to thank me." "Speaking of thanks, I should be the one thanking you." "Oh right, I can't take advantage of your prescription. Come with me to the bank, I'll withdraw some money for you," Dr. Gan hurriedly said. This prescription was extremely precious to a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Moreover, if that prescription was used well, not to mention money, it could also earn a lot of reputation. For those who practiced medicine, they might not do it for money, but they still cared about their reputation. Moreover, it was hard to guarantee that they would not encounter similar patients in the future. At that time, they would definitely use this prescription. In that case, this little girl would suffer a great loss. For the past few days, Jing Yunjiao had been reading up on the basics of ancient medicine, including some rules. The old ancestor had also reminded her of the importance of prescriptions in the spirit jade, so she could understand Dr. Gan's approach. The old doctor had a good character. If she didn't accept the money, he would definitely not feel at ease in the future. However, she was the one who had asked the old doctor to look at the prescription. She felt that it was too rash of her to accept his money for no reason. After thinking about it, Jing Yunjiao said, "I don't need the money, but I do have something that I need your help with." "Oh." Dr. Gan's face was full of curiosity. "I want to buy some medicinal seeds, but I don't have much experience and I only have a few hundred yuan on me. At my age, if I buy them myself, I'll definitely be cheated. Therefore, I need your help. If you have time, please take me to the medicinal market to take a look. You're a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, so you must be familiar with the place," Jing Yunjiao explained. Her words made Gan Songbai even more curious. A week ago at the hospital, this little girl had said that she had a master. At that time, he was worried about the patient's condition, so he didn't have time to ask. Looking at her now, she seemed like a beginner. He wondered which famous doctor's disciple she was. Chapter 18. However, no matter who it was, the other party's medical skills were definitely not low. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to write such a prescription. A famous teacher produces a brilliant student. Even if she was a novice, this girl must have some outstanding points. Gan Songbai was interested. How could he refuse? He immediately agreed. The medicinal herb market in Huaning County wasn't big, but it had all the essentials. Inside, there were all kinds of seeds and seedlings. The old and the young sat for half an hour before they arrived at this somewhat remote market. A fresh smell hit them in the face. This market was under a bridge facing a long river. In addition to medicinal herbs, there were also all kinds of flowers and birds. It was very lively. The old doctor was indeed familiar with the place. He took her to admire the scenery along the way, but didn't stop for too long. It was only when they reached their destination that he started to explain. This shop owner's ancestors were in the medicinal herb business. He also concocts his own medicinal herbs. However, business isn't good nowadays. Unless you specifically ask him to concoct something, he usually doesn't do those things. He even does some flowers and plants on the side. Although this shop looks a bit messy, I guarantee that the things inside are much more complete than other places. Gan Songbai smiled. Jing Yunjiao carefully observed the shop. Compared to other shops, this shop looked a little old-fashioned. The things placed in the shed outside the shop were all arranged neatly. More importantly, the shop owner seemed to have a clear understanding of the characteristics of plants. Some herbs with conflicting scents would be separated. What he cared about wasn't the overall beauty of the shop, but the medicinal properties. Just by looking at this point, Jing Yunjiao knew that Dr. Gan's judgment was right. Uncle Gan, what would you like to buy this time? The shop owner came out at this time and asked with a smile. Jing Yunjiao was also a bit surprised. Based on his understanding of medicinal properties, she thought that he would be an old man. She didn't expect this person to be so young. He looked like he was only 30 years old. This time I brought a little friend to take a look. Whether she buys or not is up to her. Gan Songbai explained. When he said that, the shop owner looked at Jing Yunjiao curiously. His eyes also lit up. The girl's skin was fair, and her long black hair was tied up high, revealing her smooth forehead. She gave off a clean and energetic feeling. The key was that although this girl was a little too thin, she was good-looking and tall. She looked very elegant. Jing Yunjiao was not afraid. I want some commonly used seeds, such as Nidium, Sephora, Rhubarb, Southstar, Fangfeng, and others. My master likes to plant these things, but he doesn't need a lot. You can take me to pick them myself. She couldn't say that she planted it herself. After all, although the Qiao family lived in town, they didn't even have half a mu of land at home. When Qiao Weimin was young, he had invested in a small factory. He was a partner and usually had nothing to do. Every year, he had a good income, but it was not a lot. Having a master to attract the attention of others was better than standing out on her own. Otherwise, if people knew that she had a magical space, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to see the sun rise the next day. The ancestor had warned her for a reason. The shop owner's surname was Lu. When he heard this, he quickly led Jing Yunjiao into the shop. There were rows of hemp bags in the shop. Inside them were seeds of different sizes. Inside each bag was a sign with the name of the seed. It was currently spring, so most of the seeds here were in the planting season. Therefore, Jing Yunjiao didn't have to worry too much about purchasing them. The way she looked at them seriously made her look like a medical fanatic. Dr. Gan admired her even more. Unfortunately, such a good girl already had a master. He couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Chapter 19. These common seeds all cost less than 200 yuan per kilogram, and most of them cost less than 100 yuan. Jing Yunjiao only bought a few of the more expensive seeds. She tried her best to gather as many types as possible, but her money was limited. Even if she tried her best to save, she only managed to buy 20 or so types. Looking at the other seeds, Jing Yunjiao's eyes glowed with greed. Old Dr. Gan and Boss Lu couldn't help but laugh at the sight. However, Jing Yunjiao still had her principles. Just because she didn't have the money to buy them now didn't mean she wouldn't in the future. Therefore, she directly rejected the old doctor's kindness. Now that she had found a place to buy seeds, it wouldn't be hard to find a place to sell herbs in the future. The county's largest Chinese medicine store was a place to buy herbs. Her seeds would soon mature, and it wouldn't be hard to sell them for a good price. After solving her urgent problem, Jing Yunjiao felt a lot more relaxed. After parting ways with the old doctor, she secretly hid the seeds in her space and went directly to school. Teacher Jin said that she would call the police about the hooligan incident. Logically speaking, there should be a response by now. After the exam, the school was quiet and had a more relaxed atmosphere. However, wherever Jing Yunjiao passed by, the people around her still had a strange expression on their faces. Jing Yunjiao, just now your father barged into the school and got really angry. He said that you're a bad student at such a young age, and he wants to take you home to reflect on it. Suddenly, a student mocked her. Even though he wasn't her biological father, he was still her only elder. Jing Yunjiao probably couldn't escape the responsibility of causing such a ruckus. Jing Yunjiao's grades were good, and she was also beautiful. This was enough to arouse the jealousy of many people. Moreover, she didn't like to talk in the past. She always quietly read her books with an inferiority complex. Anyone who saw her would think that she was easy to bully. Jing Yunjiao turned her body and indifferently turned around. What did you say? Her cold voice sent a chill down the student's spine. The student was startled and felt a little guilty. He tilted his head and curled his lips. I'm just telling the truth. It's not considered bad talking about you. A few minutes ago, your father was still causing a ruckus outside the school. He said that you're shameless and sleeping with hooligans at such a young age. I feel like those words were much worse than what I said just now. The student wasn't lying. As soon as Qiao Weimin arrived at the school, he barged in unreasonably. Naturally, he was stopped by the security guards. However, he did not stop there. He even scolded Teacher Jin, saying that a crooked stick would have a crooked shadow. That teacher did not know how to educate students, so she did not need to teach anymore, because of the bad influence. Just a minute ago, the dean, Teacher Jin, and the others rushed over to invite him in. If Jing Yunjiao went to the office quickly, he might still be in time. Otherwise, the withdrawal procedures might have been completed successfully. Jing Yunjiao clenched her fists. Her expression was frighteningly cold. This was the first time these students had seen her like this. Jing Yunjiao had always been a popular figure in the school. Her grades were too good. She had only been in her first year of high school for more than half a semester, but there had been all kinds of rumors about her. Even on the first day of school, there were people who inexplicably said that Jing Yunjiao's first-place results were obtained by cheating. There were also people who said that her hands were dirty and that she was always stealing. There were even people who said that she liked to flirt with boys in junior high and had a bad character. Affected by these rumors, everyone consciously avoided Jing Yunjiao. Not to mention, Jing Yunjiao never seemed to care about these rumors. She had always been a loner and had never been angry with anyone. In the past, when people insulted her in front of her, she did not retaliate. But today, her reaction was obviously different from before. Chapter 20. Jing Yunjiao's stare made the student's hair stand on end. He hurriedly dragged the student beside him away, afraid that Jing Yunjiao would do something terrible. Jing Yunjiao clenched her teeth. In her previous life, she didn't take these rumors seriously, which led to everyone misunderstanding her. Recalling Qiao Weimin's disgusting face, Jing Yunjiao didn't dare to stay any longer. She ran straight to the office. Before she reached the door, she could hear Qiao Weimin's arrogant and overbearing voice. You teachers talk about being a role model, but I think it's all nonsense. You let Jing Yunjiao fool around with those hooligans, and now she's lost her virginity. Whose fault is this? Jing Yunjiao is insensible, but I don't think you teachers are any better. Anyway, I don't care. I'm bringing her home today. From now on, I won't let her step into this lousy school of yours. Luckily she's not pregnant yet, or else I'd sue you all in court. Qiao Weimin held his head high. Especially now that he knew Jing Yunjiao didn't come to school, he was full of confidence. Qiao Hongye was also in the office at this time. Hearing Qiao Weimin's words, her face turned ugly. She wanted Jing Yunjiao to drop out of school, but she didn't want Qiao Weimin to offend these teachers. Otherwise, how would she survive in school? Dad. That's sister's problem. There are so many students in school, we can't keep an eye on her all the time. Qiao Hongye immediately exonerated the teachers. At this time, Teacher Jin was so angry that she rolled her eyes. She had never seen such a hooligan before. She was really just a stepdaughter. If she was his biological daughter, would he be shouting so loudly? Shut up. Damn girl, who are you siding with? If you talk nonsense again, you don't have to come to school anymore. Qiao Weimin was still angry. He shouted at Qiao Hongye, silencing her. Mr. Qiao, Jing Yunjiao is a good student. We've already investigated her matter. She has nothing to do with those hooligans. The director wiped the sweat on his forehead and explained anxiously. Jing Yunjiao's grades were excellent. As long as she was nurtured well, she would definitely be able to enter the best university. If such a good seedling dropped out of school because of this, wouldn't it be a pity? The director said as he politely handed him a cup of tea, hoping to calm him down. But how could Qiao Weimin listen? He directly smashed the cup on the table, making an ear-piercing sound. What do you mean nothing? I'm her dad. How can I not know what kind of person she is? Only teachers like you who can't differentiate between right and wrong would believe her. The school's words, do you think I'm really as a fool? Qiao Hongye still didn't mind Jing's SSS face was as she stepped into the door. She said Colonel Qiao, that man, and she Qiao Weimin, you only have Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou as your biological children. Qiao Hongye's cold shout made the teachers' hearts tremble. There were even teachers who hurriedly came forward. Jing Yunjiao, quickly explain to your dad. The police have already caught those hooligans. When we return, we'll bring you to identify them. They'll definitely clear your name. As soon as he said that, Qiao Hongye's eyes immediately widened into circles. Caught. Qiao Hongye and Qiao Hongye didn't give the teachers a chance to explain themselves. They didn't know the whereabouts of those hooligans at all. Qiao Hongye especially didn't expect the school to call the police. She immediately became nervous. Chapter 21. Although she was nervous, Qiao Hongye still had some hope. She had known the boss of those hooligans for a few years and had a good relationship with him. Later on, he helped her a lot, so he definitely wouldn't rat her out. Thinking of this, Qiao Hongye sighed softly. Jing Yunjiao entered the office and spoke to everyone. Dear teachers, because of my matter, Yunjiao has caused all of you to suffer grievances. Yunjiao is really sorry, but Yunjiao still has something that I need all of you and the school's help with. This kind of grievance, I really don't want to continue enduring. Jing Yunjiao, what grievance do you have? I think you're just a troublemaker if you don't get beaten for 3 days. Qiao Weimin was used to fighting, so when he heard this, he couldn't help but raise his hand. However, this time, his hand didn't land on Jing Yunjiao's face. Instead, it was caught by her. In the past week, she would try her best to find some time to enter the space every day. When she was in the space, she spent most of her time absorbing the medical knowledge in the spirit jade and practicing martial arts. Because the time was short, she didn't have many results, but the strength of her hand was stronger than before. I see that you've grown some ability. You still know how to hide. I'll beat you to death, you shameless bastard. Jing Yunjiao's actions immediately angered Qiao Weimin, and he was about to rush over. Fortunately, there were a few male teachers around who reacted in time and restrained him in an instant. However, they also felt a chill in their hearts. With this kind of father, it would be better to be an orphan. Qiao Weimin, you're saying that I'm a bastard now, so that means you admit that I'm not your daughter. Since that's the case, what right do you have to order me to drop out of school? Besides, just because I don't say some things, it doesn't mean that I don't know. Jing Yunjiao looked at him coldly and continued, Teachers, you all know that I'm a burden brought into the Qiao family by my mother, but what you don't know is that Yi Qin isn't my biological mother. When Yi Qin was pregnant, she found me in swaddling clothes. She wanted to abandon me, but a fortune teller said that I could ward off evil spirits for her son and daughter, so she held back her temper and brought me home. At that time, I didn't know the truth. I felt wronged and puzzled when my parents spoke to me coldly. But later, I coincidentally found out the truth. Only then did I understand the reason. No matter what, Yi Qin raised me for more than 10 years. I respect and am grateful to her. She just passed away recently, and I have no complaints about wearing mourning clothes for her. However, I am indebted to Yi Qin, but Qiao Weiman did not. Over the years, he has been scolding and beating me. He would rather believe the rumors outside than believe what I say. Today, he forced me to drop out of school, not because I made a mistake, but because he lacks an old maid to do the laundry and cook at home. Jing Yunzhao's eyes turned red, shocking everyone. Everyone was shocked by her incessant words. Even Qiao Weiman and Qiao Hongye were the same. They didn't expect that Jing Yunzhao already knew about her background. Jing Yunzhao. That means you aren't related to Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou by blood? Teacher Jin sucked in a breath of cold air and asked. If Jing Yunzhao was Yi Qin's child, then perhaps they could still hope that Qiao Weiman would treat Jing Yunzhao better out of consideration for his late wife. But now, Jing Yunzhao was just a child who wasn't related to the Qiao family by blood. Even Qiao Weiman said that she was a bastard. Towards a bastard, Qiao Weiman wouldn't even treat her well, let alone treat her wholeheartedly. Suddenly, the teacher's expressions turned serious. Just a moment ago, they were apprehensive because Qiao Weiman was Jing Yunzhao's parent, so they were polite. But now. Chapter 22. Everyone's gazes towards Qiao Weiman became increasingly unfriendly. Teacher Jin was even more direct. Mr. Qiao, we want to have a good talk with you regarding Jing Yunzhao. What's there to talk about? I want her to drop out of school and go home. Are you teachers going to stop me? Qiao Weiman said angrily. We can't stop you, but you have to be qualified to be Jing Yunzhao's guardian. Besides, Jing Yunzhao's grades are very good. She didn't make you spend a single cent to go to school. She relied on her own ability. What right do you have to deprive her of her rights? Teacher Jin said again. Is there something wrong with your brains? Even if I didn't spend money to let her go to school, I raised her for more than 10 years. She's messing around outside and affecting our Qiao family's reputation. Qiao Weiman was really angry. He didn't think that it would be so troublesome to go through the procedures to drop out of school. If it was a normal day, perhaps these teachers wouldn't care. At most, they would sigh for Jing Yunzhao's fate. But today, Qiao Weiman was too much. When he entered the school, he scolded these teachers for having no morals. These teachers wanted to do something with morals to shut Qiao Weiman's mouth. Logically speaking, as long as there was sufficient evidence to prove that Qiao Weiman was not qualified to be a guardian, they could contact the town's leaders and revoke Qiao Weiman's qualifications. It was just a matter of lifting a hand. You said I was messing around outside. Then that's good. Just now, the teacher also said that the hooligans have been caught. I'm sure the interrogation should have been completed by now. In any case, I also need to go and sign the identification papers now. At most, we'll just go together and ask what's going on. Let's go. You unrepentant girl. Wait for me. When you go home, I will beat you to death. Qiao Weiman said fiercely. Jing Yunzhao wasn't afraid. Go home. She might not go back to that so-called home. Jing Yunzhao's matter was quite big. In addition, there were many rumors in the school. She was the top student in the school. If it wasn't handled properly, it would affect the overall reputation of the school. Therefore, the school director brought teacher Jing Yunzhao, and Qiao Weiman directly to the police station. Because they had contacted the police in advance, the police handed over the prepared information to them. Student Jing Yunzhao, these are the hooligans, right? The policeman asked after recognizing them. Jing Yunzhao furrowed her brows and tried her best to recall the scene of this incident in her past life. After thinking for a long time, she still felt that someone was missing and said, Police uncle, director, I remember there were 6 people, but now there are only 5. Moreover, the remaining person should be their boss. They all listened to him. When the police officer heard this, he was also shocked. Did you remember wrongly? No, that man is not old. He's in his early 20s. He's wearing ear studs and looks okay, but there's nothing special about him. Jing Yunzhao said slowly. Not having any distinguishing features was the worst. How was he supposed to find one in a sea of people? Perhaps after these people were caught, they had escaped to other places. Actually, this wasn't a big crime, especially among these hooligans. Some of them were underage, But the problem was that the police had seen them trying to rape a woman. If they were charged with attempted rape, they wouldn't be able to wash it off for the rest of their lives. These hooligans don't have much of a reputation in the county. At most, they used to do some petty theft. They were lucky and didn't come in. I didn't expect them to be so bold this time. But don't worry, the police will do their best to catch that person. Just don't get your hopes up. After all, it's been so long. I'm afraid they've already run far away. Jing Yunjiao also understood, but he felt that it was a pity. What do you mean run far away? Jing Yunjiao, just play dumb. You left at 7 today and only came to school in the afternoon. What did you do in between? I think you went to see that hooligan and did something shameful with him in a few hours, Qiao Weimin suddenly said. Chapter 23. Qiao Weimin had been pestering Jing Yunjiao endlessly for so long. Now that it was proven that Jing Yunjiao had nothing to do with this little hooligan, how could he not lose face? Now that he heard that there was a runaway, he immediately flipped out again. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, she didn't get angry but laughed instead. When she was preparing to go to the police station, she already knew that Qiao Weimin would definitely mention that she wasn't at school this morning, so before she left, she borrowed the office phone to contact Dr. Gan. Fortunately, Dr. Gan gave her his number, or else she really wouldn't be able to clear her name. Director, Teacher Jin, please wait a little longer. The person who was with me this morning should be here soon, Jing Yunjiao said. Not long after Jing Yunjiao said this, an old man walked in. So it's Dr. Gan. Teacher Jin immediately let out a sigh of relief. Jing Yunjiao also formally introduced, this is Dr. Gan Songbai, who works at the county's central hospital. His character and reputation are definitely one of the best. His words can't be false. When I came to the county this morning, I coincidentally met Dr. Gan. Because I'm very interested in medicine, I went to the medicine market with him. How come in Qiao Weimin's eyes, Dr. Gan is just a little hooligan? Qiao Weimin's face immediately turned red. He never thought that this person would be this old man. So it's Mr. Qiao. It's not the first time we've met, so I'll be frank with you. Previously, I saw the prescription this girl provided and was convinced that it could save your wife, but you refused to use it. At that time, I thought you were a bit unreasonable, but I didn't expect you to not only be heartless to your wife, but also to a child. Gan Songbai sighed. A life was lost because of his stubbornness. Now that Gan Songbai was here, even if Qiao Weimin had 10,000 mouths, he wouldn't be able to continue spouting nonsense. Although he still felt that Jing Yunjiao was lying, he didn't have any evidence. With a belly full of anger, he could only give up and prepare to leave. However, before he could leave, the director had already left. That day, he directly invited the people from the town's neighborhood committee, hoping that they would reconsider the custody. Ningxiang Town, or even Huaning County, was just a small place. These matters were not complicated to deal with. The key was that the school was involved. After explaining the reason, it was immediately decided. Jing Yunjiao was only a few months old. She had no parents, brothers, or sisters. Her guardianship was temporarily taken over by the neighborhood committee. From now on, it would be impossible for Qiao Weimin to use his stepfather's authority to do anything. This series of events happened so quickly that Qiao Weimin didn't even have time to react before everything was settled. Those certificates had been completely confirmed, and it was too late to go back on his word. You don't recognize me as your father anymore? Good. Good. From today onwards, don't come home. Qiao Weimin was flustered and exasperated. He threw out a sentence and left immediately. Jing Yunjiao finally heaved a sigh of relief. Since her rebirth, she had finally resolved the custody issue. From now on, it would be impossible for this Qiao Weimin to disgust her like he did in her previous life. She had long been prepared to leave the Qiao family, so the necessary documents had already been stored in her space. She only brought along the few pieces of clothing that she bought with her own money. The rest were things that Qiao Hongye didn't want, so she naturally couldn't continue to keep them. As for the nights, she usually stayed at school. She had already planned for the weekends. The space was so big, she could just find a place to hide. Chapter 24. Although Jing Yunjiao was prepared to rely on the school, old Dr. Gan and teacher Jin obviously didn't think so. Jing Yunjiao, my house is near the school, and there aren't any outsiders in the house. I think you don't need to live in the school anymore. Why don't you just live with me? It'll be easier for me to take care of you, teacher Jin said. He was only a 15-year-old child. If he lived in the school without the care of elders, he would feel like he was missing something. Old Dr. Gan thought for a moment and said, speaking of which, I also have a house near your school. Jing Yunjiao looked over in surprise, only to hear old Dr. Gan continue, the house isn't big. It has 3 bedrooms and 1 living room. Currently, there are only 2 people living there. One is my granddaughter, and the other is my grandson. Those 2 are also studying in number 1 middle school. Coincidentally, they're around the same age as you, but they're mischievous and don't want to live with adults. If you're willing, you can join in the fun, but this house costs a fee. When teacher Jin heard the fee, she immediately frowned. Just as she was about to speak, she was stopped by old Dr. Gan. There are 3 conditions for the fee. First, your grades must be within the top 20 in the school. Second, I'll conduct a medical exam every month. It's not very difficult, but you must pass it. As for the third condition, you must follow me to see patients at least once a month. After Gan Songbai finished speaking, Jing Yunjiao understood. Gan Songbai's granddaughter and grandson probably didn't want to be disciplined and wanted to live their own lives. This was why Gan Songbai asked for these 3 conditions. It was equivalent to letting them live a relaxed life, but also preventing them from being too idle. However, after hearing what he said, Jing Yunjiao was indeed tempted. If she lived in the school, she would have to be careful when entering the space at night. Although Gan Songbai's medical skills weren't as good as her ancestors, he was still a doctor with decades of experience. She was just starting out. If she could observe and see patients with him, it would be beneficial for her. However, although it was said to be a fee, it was actually beneficial and harmless. She couldn't take advantage of it for no reason. Jing Yunjiao had a serious expression on his face as he said, I won't call you doctor anymore. I'll be so bold as to call you Grandpa Gan. I really do like the house you mentioned, but my master once taught me that I shouldn't accept a reward if I didn't deserve it. You've helped me a lot, so I really can't accept your kindness for nothing. Moreover, my master also left me some money, so I can pay you some rent every month. Gan Songbai's face also turned serious. Since you're already calling me Grandpa Gan, then I'll accept you as my god-granddaughter. But how could a grandfather ask his granddaughter for rent? If you feel bad about it, you can always come and help me out in the future. I won't pay you. Jing Yunjiao was stunned and blushed. In his panic, he had forgotten that Grandpa Gan had another meaning. However, Gan Songbai was a kind person, and his medical skills were brilliant. He had only seen her a few times, but he wasn't stingy in helping her. It could be said that in her past life, she had lived for more than 20 years, and there wasn't a single elder by her side who did what he did. His heart couldn't help but soften. He smiled and said, all right, Grandpa, then in the future, you can order me around as you please. This clear call of Grandpa made Gan Songbai overjoyed. Rubbing Jing Yunjiao's head, he turned to teacher Jin and said, Teacher, I'm sorry. You also know that my god-granddaughter likes medical skills. In the future, she can also make friends with my grandson and granddaughter. Don't worry, Yunjiao is a good child. I promise that I won't let this child suffer any grievances. I'll also have to trouble you to take care of her at school in the future. Chapter 25. Teacher Jin was a bit dumbfounded. She didn't think that this grandfather-grandson reunion would be so casual. But she was also a bit happy. Having more elders doting on her was always good. What's more, Gan Songbai was the county's famous traditional Chinese medicine doctor. Jing Yunjiao also liked medicine, so there were only benefits and no downsides. Now that things were settled, the rest was much simpler. She didn't have to go to class today, so she tidied up the 2 beds in the school. That night, she went directly to the neighborhood that Gan Songbai mentioned. Gan Songbai wanted to send her there, but it was said that Gan Songbai had an agreement with his grandson and granddaughter. If it wasn't a fee day, No adults were allowed to rashly disturb them. So he just called to inform them. The neighborhood was called Cozy Garden. It wasn't big, and the houses were like the name, simple and warm. The place she was going to live was on the top floor of the 5th floor. It was said that it came with a small attic. It was filled with all kinds of flowers and plants. In a few months, the house would be filled with fragrance. Jing Yunjiao easily went upstairs and knocked on the door. Soon, a girl wearing bunny pajamas opened the door. "Godcousin?" the girl asked. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. She was shocked by this name, but she still nodded her head. After nodding, she was instantly pulled through the door. The girl continued, "I'm called Suchu. I heard from grandfather that you're older than me by 2 months, so you can be considered my cousin. Cousin is reading in the room. He's called Gan Jinchen. He's older than us by a year. He repeated a grade in elementary school, so he's in the same class as us. I've heard of you, Jing Yunjiao. You're our school's top student." Jing Yunjiao was a bit surprised. This was the first time someone knew who she was and didn't hide it. Seeing that Jing Yunjiao was surprised, Suchu continued to chatter. "Grandpa told me. He said that you went to the police station today and those gangsters were arrested. The facts proved that those rumors had nothing to do with you. Although I don't know what happened, Grandpa is a good judge of character. Since he can recognize you as his god-granddaughter, it proves that your character is definitely not a problem." After Suchu finished speaking, she stretched her body and said, "You'll be staying in the room next to mine. It's already been cleaned up. You should familiarize yourself with the environment first. I'm going to study too. There are only a few days left before Grandpa's exam." After saying that, she slipped back into the house. Jing Yunjiao exhaled and observed the house. The house was not small, about 120 square meters. The kitchen and bathroom were complete. However, the house was a little messy. All kinds of snacks were scattered all over the floor. There were also many miscellaneous books. It was a complete mess. When he opened her room, he also liked it. The room was facing the sun. The curtains were golden and bright. The bed, bookcase, and wardrobe were also complete. He was very satisfied. When she was in the Chiao family, she lived in the smallest room. The canopy, vase, and other furnishings were all cheap goods that she tried her best to buy. Otherwise, it didn't look warm at all. After simply tidying up the things he brought, the house became more and more like it. After messing around for a day, he didn't tidy up the things he bought during the day. After locking the door, he directly entered the space. In the space, several bags were neatly arranged. Those seeds seemed to be more vibrant here. Jing Yunjiao took a small shovel and, according to the planting steps written in the spirit jade, buried all these seeds in the soil. Then, he used the blue spring water to accelerate the growth of these seeds. Then, he continued to study medicine with a peace of mind. After nearly 12 hours in the space, he saw those seeds had changed appearance. They were full of vitality. Because the proportion of blue spring water was different, the maturity was different. However, they all successfully survived. Chapter 26. The space was very wide, especially after she absorbed the spirit jade. She always felt that it was much bigger than when she first came in. Jing Yunjiao only bought about 1 kilogram of these seeds. For example, Codonapsis pelosula. Although the quantity was not much, it was enough to plant half a mu. After harvesting and making dry goods, this half mu was at least 100 kilograms. Even if it was 50 yuan, as long as she sold these Codonapsis pelosula, she could earn about 5,000 yuan. With the convenience of this space, no matter what kind of medicinal herbs she planted in the future, it would be much faster. It was a business that would not lose money. Jing Yunjiao was in a very good mood. The medicinal herbs that other people needed 2 or 3 years to mature only took 12 hours here. If she left the space, only 2 hours had passed outside. She was afraid that no one would not be jealous of such a nature-defying method. But looking at the large amount of mature medicinal herbs, Jing Yunjiao had a headache. This money was indeed fast, but it was also tiring. If she planted thousands of mu of medicinal herbs in the future, Would she have to harvest them all by herself? Jing Yunjiao thought about this, and a memory fragment popped up in her mind. She was suddenly happy. To think that the spirit jade even mentioned this. She quickly gathered her spirit. Suddenly, the solution was imprinted in her mind. The space in the jade pot was a treasure even in the different world where the ancestor was born. It was not like other spaces that could only accommodate dead things. The space area of the space became wider with the strength of the spiritual power. For Jing Yunjiao, every time she absorbed the spirit jade, it was equivalent to expanding the capacity of her brain, and her spiritual power would become stronger. If she wanted to solve the problem of planting and harvesting by herself, she only needed to drip a drop of blood on the ground to draw out the spirit of the jade pot space. The spirit would take care of everything else for her. With the method, Jing Yunjiao naturally hurried to use it. She cut her fingertip and saw a drop of blood fall into the soil. It disappeared without a trace. When she looked again, there was a blue aura in the place where the blood disappeared. Jing Yunjiao stepped back. In the blink of an eye, she saw that there were many ice blue little insects. Looking at the fleshy appearance of those little insects, they were very cute. They seemed to be guided by her blood and immediately surrounded her. This ice blue insect was only the size of a thumb. She couldn't help but wonder how this little fellow could help her with her work. However, perhaps sensing Jing Yunjiao's suspicions, the hundreds of beasts suddenly crawled towards the herbs. Some of them burrowed into the soil, while others climbed onto the leaves and hugged them. Their bodies wriggled a few times, and the herbs were immediately uprooted. His movements were very fast. In the blink of an eye, all the codonopsis was placed in front of her. Thank you. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. At this time, the insects lined up neatly, raised their bodies, and slowly bowed to her. Their cute appearance shocked Jing Yunjiao. However, with their help, Jing Yunjiao was completely relieved. He asked them to help collect all the other mature medicinal herbs. Her space had the ability to preserve freshness, so it was naturally impossible to dry these herbs under the sun. Thus, Jing Yunjiao could only sell these herbs as fresh goods and wait until she earned enough money to buy a bigger house. Only then could she solve this problem. 3 days after the space, it was the next morning outside. When it was time to go to school, Jing Yunjiao went out. Outside the door, Su Chu was already waiting for him. As for Gan Jinchen, he was still nowhere to be seen. Chapter 27. Su Chu had changed into a pink coat, paired with a pair of exquisite leather boots, while Jing Yunjiao was wearing a normal sports jacket. In comparison, Jing Yunjiao's clothes were cheap to the point of being cheap. "Cousin, this color doesn't suit you. You have fair skin. Red or white would definitely look good on you." Su Chu wasn't stingy with her praise. Su Chu's appearance was exquisite, like a cute little sister next door. Jing Yunjiao could also imagine how popular Su Chu would be in school. However, in Su Chu's eyes, Jing Yunjiao stunned her. She had seen Jing Yunjiao many times. For example, at various school ceremonies, she was the student representative. Every time, her tone was indifferent. No matter what the audience said about her, she didn't say a word. Actually, Jing Yunjiao was very beautiful. It was just that in the past, she always felt that she didn't have any aura about her and gave off a gloomy feeling. But now, why did it feel like she was a different person? Even if she was wearing sportswear, she still had a noble air about her. "Aren't you going to eat breakfast?" Jing Yunjiao didn't have any opinions about the clothes and changed the topic. "There's only instant noodles at home. Cousin left first today. Otherwise, I would still have porridge to drink," Su Chu said with a bitter face. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched and he sighed. It was still early. Jing Yunjiao simply let Su Chu wait while he went to cook porridge for 2 people. Su Chu had a childish temperament. When she saw that Jing Yunjiao was so good at cooking, she immediately said, "Cousin, did you cook every day at home in the past? Your porridge is so much better than cousin's." Cousin Gan Jinchen's cooking ability was only a little better than hers. Unlike Jing Yunjiao's porridge, it was so fragrant. "If you want to drink it in the future, I'll make it for you." Jing Yunjiao smiled and said. Jing Yunjiao rarely spoke unless it was absolutely necessary. After his rebirth, it was better. Suchu was the only one nagging the whole morning. At first, Jing Yunjiao still had the patience to reply to her. But later, he realized that Suchu's thoughts were more jumpy. Their conversations were often not in the same rhythm. Slowly, he just responded and became a listener. After breakfast, the two of them walked to school. Outside, the sun was exceptionally bright, as if it was celebrating her rebirth. "Look, it's Jing Yunjiao." As soon as he entered the school, someone suddenly called out in a low voice. Yesterday, when Xiao Hongye came back, she was crying in class. I asked her for a long time before she finally told me that Jing Yunjiao wasn't her mother's child. He was adopted by the Qiao family. However, didn't Xiao Hongye's father come to make a scene yesterday? He even went to the police station. In the end, I heard that Jing Yunjiao insisted on moving out. In other words, he drew a clear line between himself and the Qiao family. A girl said softly. Although his voice was soft, everyone within a few steps could hear him clearly. Jing Yunjiao swept a glance at the girl. He had some impression of her. This county high school was the best school in the whole of Hua Ning County. There were more than 20 classes in the first year of high school. She was in class 1, and Xiao Hongye was in class 2 next door. Their classes were close to each other, and they were also family, so there was often a comparison. She remembered that in her previous life, it was this girl called Lu Jiao who was the most talkative. She was always by Xiao Hongye's side, as if Xiao Hongye had suffered a great grievance. She would stand up for Xiao Hongye and ruthlessly insult her. At this moment, Lu Jiao was still the same as in her previous life. Even when she saw Jing Yunjiao, she was still very proud and even louder. Some people think that they can do whatever they want just because their grades are good. They actually set up their own house. Although they aren't biological parents, their kindness is much greater than biological parents. She actually said that she doesn't want it, and she doesn't want it. I've never seen such a heartless and unscrupulous person. Chapter 28. Lu Jiao, lower your voice. The other girls beside her reminded her. Although they didn't like Jing Yunjiao, they didn't have much interaction with Jing Yunjiao. Moreover, when Xiao Hongye's father came to make trouble yesterday, everyone felt uncomfortable. They had never seen a man with such thick skin. "Don't pull me." Lu Jiao couldn't care less. She didn't change her attitude and continued, "I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I lower my voice? Think about it. Although she's not Xiao Hongye's biological sister, she grew up under the Qiao family's care and even became the school's top student. What right does she have to not acknowledge her parents? Besides, Uncle Qiao had his reasons for being so angry yesterday. If she didn't cause trouble with those hooligans, things wouldn't have turned out this way. What nonsense are you talking about? Those hooligans have already been caught. It has nothing to do with cousin. Suchu exploded when she heard this. She really didn't understand why people like to spread rumors and stir up trouble. Jing Yunjiao's expression was indifferent. He pulled Suchu behind him and walked straight to Lu Jiao. "Do you live with me? Do you know about my previous life? Or do you have the ability to read minds and know what I'm thinking? Since you don't, what right do you have to stand up for Qiao Weimin? Oh, Qiao Weimin has just lost his wife. You're so good to Xiao Hongye. Are you going to be a stepmother?" Jing Yunjiao directly replied. Even in her previous life, Lu Jiao was Xiao Hongye's best friend. If she stole Xiao Hongye's things and made her jealous, she had nothing to say. However, she had never targeted Lu Jiao and had never caused her any harm. Lu Jiao had belittled her more than once in the name of standing up for her best friend. In the past, she pretended not to hear or see anything. But now, it was impossible. After all, they were all 15 or 16-year-old girls. Lu Jiao's face turned red when she heard this. "I didn't. You're just a bastard. What right do you have to say that about me?" Lu Jiao's voice was trembling, afraid that others would believe Jing Yunjiao's words. She raised her hand and pointed at Jing Yunjiao. She looked like she was about to fight, which was a little scary. This Lu Jiao's image was completely different from Xiao Hongye's. Although she also had long hair, she didn't look very beautiful. Her looks were slightly ordinary, and because she was in puberty, there were some pimples on her face, and her complexion wasn't as good as Xiao Hongye's. Now that he was angry, he felt as if his pimples were about to pop out. His ferocious appearance made Jing Yunjiao feel disgusted. "I'm a bastard, so I deserve to die and be bullied." Jing Yunjiao raised her hand and slapped the arm that was pointing at her. "I don't like people pointing at me, especially dirty things. You are shameless. Who are you calling a dirty thing?" Lu Jiao had always been sensitive about her face. Now that she heard Jing Yunjiao's words, she couldn't take it anymore. After she finished speaking, she didn't care about the people around her trying to stop her and directly pounced towards Jing Yunjiao. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws like a crazy woman, reaching out to grab Jing Yunjiao's face. If it was before her rebirth, Lu Jiao might have succeeded. But now, Jing Yunjiao had spent a lot of time practicing martial arts in the space. Although her martial arts couldn't even be considered as a three-legged cat, her strength and reflexes were much stronger than a little girl like Lu Jiao. She reached out and grabbed Lu Jiao's fingers. She pulled hard, and the people around could faintly hear a ka sound. Lu Jiao cried out in pain as tears flowed out of her eyes. Chapter 29. With her hands clamped down by Jing Yunjiao, Lu Jiao began to use her feet again. In a trance, she kicked at his calf. Dong! Before she could land, her whole body was pushed to the ground by Jing Yunjiao. Although the scene of the two people fighting was not very spectacular, it was still early in the morning. The students were gathering at the school and soon gathered in a group. They were completely stunned by the scene in front of them. They saw Jing Yunjiao's legs move and directly ride on Lu Jiao's body in front of everyone. Pa, 2 slaps were thrown. Apologize. After the 2 slaps, he shouted coldly. Lu Jiao was a little stunned by the slap. She never thought that one day she would be slapped in front of the whole school. "You are a bastard. A heartless bastard. You even slept with others." Lu Jiao glared but refused to lower her head. Jing Yunjiao's expression became more and more terrifying. He sneered, "Do you know what the crime of spreading rumors is? To prevent you from going astray in the future, I will teach you a lesson today." After that, he swung his hand and slapped her again. After a few more slaps, Lu Jiao began to see stars as tears streamed down her cheeks. She couldn't say a word as her cheeks burned from the pain. Jing Yunjiao did not have a violent tendency. Seeing that Lu Jiao did not speak, he did not continue to hit her and simply stood up. It was just a few slaps, and it only took a while. When the security guard squeezed in, Jing Yunjiao was already standing there quietly, looking as gentle and easy to bully as before. "You children don't learn good things. Fighting so early in the morning. Come with me to the office," the security guard said angrily. Especially when he stared at Jing Yunjiao, his expression was particularly unfriendly. Yesterday, it was her father who made him restless. Today, she caused trouble again. In the past, he felt that this child was very quiet, but now, looking at the girl who was beaten, her face was swollen. How pitiful. "Uncle, please prepare the video just now." Jing Yunjiao did not resist, but looked at the security guard uncle before leaving. The reason why she dared to fight back so openly was not because she was really angry, but because she knew that this place was under surveillance. It was wrong for her to hit someone, but that was only because she was strong enough that she wasn't hit. Lu Jiao was the one who started the trouble first. She was also the one who made the first move. She was the only one who had spoken rudely all this while. As for her, she was just looking for trouble after being wronged. If she didn't resist, would she have to wait for Lu Jiao to scratch her face? Seeing Jing Yunjiao make such a solemn vow, the security guard uncle was somewhat baffled. However, after thinking about it, he felt that there was a high chance that he would have to look at the recording when he returned. That was why he got someone to prepare it first. Jing Yunjiao was a frequent visitor to this office. Now that the security guard said that she had hit someone, she suddenly became the focus of attention. The teachers of the 2 classes immediately stood against each other. "Teacher Jin, it's not that I want to say this, but this student in your class is too undisciplined. She's simply a violent person. I still haven't recovered from yesterday's incident. Today, Such a thing happened. It won't be good if it gets out. The teacher of class 2 said earnestly. Although she also liked Jing Yunjiao, after all, it was in front of her own students. It wouldn't be good to side with an outsider, right? Moreover, it was obvious that Lu Jiao was the one who was at a disadvantage. Speaking of which, this Jing Yunjiao was really ruthless. Looking at the little face that was beaten up, layer upon layer of finger marks, it was already swollen with baby fat. Chapter 30. Teacher Jin's expression also showed that she was in a difficult position. She thought to herself, maybe it's because Jing Yunjiao had just gone through such a huge incident yesterday that the pressure on her heart was too much. Jing Yunjiao, what's going on? Teacher Jin asked sternly. Jing Yunjiao didn't find anything wrong with Teacher Jin's attitude. After all, this female teacher was famous for being fair. The fact that she didn't reprimand him directly showed her great trust in him. Teacher Jin, it's my fault for hitting her. I'll apologize to her first. Jing Yunjiao frowned and said to the bruised and swollen Lu Jiao, I'm sorry. Without waiting for anyone to speak, Jing Yunjiao continued, but I don't regret it. I was only defending myself. Teacher Jin was dumbfounded. What do you mean? Could it be that Lu Jiao hit you first? The class 2 teacher asked in surprise. Lu Jiao was crying so hard that she couldn't catch her breath. Her face was so swollen that she couldn't reply. Today, as soon as I entered the school gates, Lu Jiao started mocking me in a weird manner. I only responded with a few words, but I don't know how I made her angry. She pointed at me and called me a bastard. Teacher, it's not my fault that I was abandoned by my biological parents. No one is born a bastard. Let me ask you, if this kind of insulting words were used on you, wouldn't you be angry? Jing Yunjiao asked slowly. So you hit her? Teacher Jin asked. If that was the case, it was pardonable. However, wasn't it a little too ruthless? No. Jing Yunjiao looked determined. Her words were too dirty. I replied and angered her again. She reached out to scratch my face. You saw the length of her fingernails. If she really scratched my face, I would definitely be disfigured. I couldn't just let her hit me and scold me, so I hit her. I just didn't expect her to be a paper tiger. She attacked me first but couldn't beat me. With that said, the teachers were speechless. They couldn't help but look at Lu Jiao's fingernails. They were indeed frighteningly long. Lu Jiao, is it like what Jing Yunjiao said? The class 2 teacher asked with a headache. Lu Jiao nodded while crying, then shook her head. I didn't hit her. Not only did he not hit him, as soon as his hand reached out, it was clamped down. Jing Yunjiao was the only one who was attacking him from behind. You didn't hit me because I dodged in time. What if my reaction was slower? You should know what looks mean to a girl. Jing Yunjiao snorted coldly and replied rudely. At this moment, the teachers suddenly felt that Jing Yunjiao was a little different. In the past, whenever she was in front of the teachers, she would be very quiet and let them arrange things for her. Sometimes, when she was wronged, she wouldn't say anything. If it weren't for her good grades, the teachers probably wouldn't have remembered her. But now, he had a temper and a personality. Thinking of her appearance, Lu Jiao pointed at her face. Teacher. Then she wouldn't have beaten me up like this. Halfway through, I asked her to apologize, but she didn't agree and continued to scold me. Under such circumstances, it's normal for me to lose my rationality and be impulsive. Besides, if Lu Jiao hadn't provoked me at the beginning, I wouldn't have done that. And about that hooligan, I don't know why Lu Jiao and the others are still spouting nonsense. The police have already announced the truth, but there are still people insulting me. Are they trying to hurt me again? Especially Lu Jiao. Her rumor-mongering has already cast a shadow in my heart. Although she's not an adult yet, if I report her, her guardian will have to bear the responsibility, right? Chapter 31. Although the legal responsibility wouldn't be too serious, there would definitely be some monetary punishment. Jing Yunjiao's words were spoken with such certainty that every word left her mouth, causing Lu Jiao's heart to tremble. The police will announce the truth. What truth? She was a little puzzled. Didn't everyone say that Jing Yunjiao had an affair with a hooligan? Could it be that it wasn't? Teacher Jin sighed. I've already discussed this matter with the higher-ups. Rumors in school are very strong, so during the morning exercise later, there will be a broadcast to clarify things for you. If a good student was ruined by these rumors, how could she resent the school in the future? Lu Jiao, get your parents to come later. Class 2's teacher felt aggrieved as she said, you did suffer a loss, but this loss wasn't justified. Did Jing Yunjiao offend you? You don't know the truth and yet you fabricate things. Do you know how bad of an impact this will bring? As Class 2's teacher spoke, the security guard took out the surveillance camera. When everyone saw it, they were even more speechless. Although there was no sound and they didn't know what they were talking about, there were so many students around. Any one or two of them would be able to interrogate them clearly. Jing Yunjiao was a little ruthless when he hit someone, but Lu Jiao was the one who made the first move. If Jing Yunjiao hadn't dodged in time, his face would probably have suffered quite a bit of injury. Teacher. Lu Jiao opened her mouth in an attempt to resist. Enough. Your parents have to come. Go to the infirmary first. What's with the ruckus from a young girl? Class 2's teacher said angrily, feeling uncomfortable. His own classmate was finding fault with others, but he was the one who suffered the loss. How useless. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and didn't say another word. Now that the matter was settled, she said goodbye to Teacher Jin and left. Outside the door, Su Chu was eagerly watching. When she saw her come out, her eyes lit up. Cousin, you're really something. Lu Jiao didn't even have a chance to retaliate. That's fine, but she even had to call her parent. Haha, this is so satisfying. Su Chu laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth, not caring about her image at all. Jing Yunjiao looked at her helplessly and said, I was lucky. If there weren't any cameras, I wouldn't have done that. She was not a fool. If there was no evidence, the weak would definitely have the upper hand. No matter what she said, it would be useless. Su Chu stuck out her tongue and refused to let go of Jing Yunjiao. The students passing by were all shocked by this scene. He didn't know if there was something wrong with the school recently. Jing Yunjiao, who had always been a loner and didn't like to talk, not only beat someone up but also made friends. Moreover, that girl was the representative of the school belle list. No. One high school was so big that almost all the talents and beauties in the county were gathered there. Some busybodies had created two lists, which were the campus belle ranking and the campus hunk ranking. On that list, Su Chu was ranked third as a cute little girl. Her appearance attracted the attention of the seniors. Su Chu, this little girl, was famous for her ability to get along with people, but she was also famous for being picky. What she disliked the most was interacting with people who were two-faced. Today, she was walking together with Jing Yunjiao, so she couldn't help but feel strange. Could it be that this Jing Yunjiao really wasn't as bad as the rumors said? The atmosphere around Jing Yunjiao became a little strange. No matter who looked at her, they would all look at her with a puzzled gaze. However, this gaze was much kinder than before, so Jing Yunjiao was happy to see it. Not long after, rows of students marched to the field. Recently, there have been many unpleasant rumors in the school. The impact is very bad. The dean's serious voice began to sound from the loudspeaker. Chapter 32. As soon as the headmaster spoke, the students below were already whispering to each other. He's not talking about Jing Yunjiao, is he? That's for sure. Other than her, no one else has caused any trouble recently, especially yesterday. You guys didn't see how her father was like. He was so fierce, shouting at the top of his lungs that Jing Yunjiao had hooked up with a hoodlum outside. It was originally just a rumor, but after the commotion yesterday, it actually became true. Even by Jing Yunjiao's side, there was no lack of such voices. Students below, please be quiet. The headmaster's voice grew louder as he continued. Regarding the recent gangster incident, Jing Yunjiao has already reported it to the police with the accompaniment of the school. Those people have also been arrested. After interrogation, it was confirmed that the incident had nothing to do with Jing Yunjiao. Both parties did not know each other, and there was no such puppy love incident. Therefore, from today onwards, the school hopes that all of you will watch your mouths and not speak without thinking. All class teachers, please take note as well. If you discover any students causing trouble out of nothing, you must strictly educate them. The rest of the time was still the headmaster's incessant lecture. In the end, he pointed out, Class 2's Lu Jiao caused trouble in school. She will be heavily criticized here. If she commits the same mistake again, she will be given a demerit. After he finished speaking, the students were in an uproar. Jing Yunjiao breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. His eyes also flashed with some emotions. Finally, it was not like in his previous life, where he had dirted himself and could not say anything. Looking at the row of students next door, Qiao Hongye's body fiercely trembled. She felt somewhat unreconciled. What she hated the most was hearing about Jing Yunjiao from other people's mouths. Especially now, when everyone felt that Jing Yunjiao had suffered a great grievance. What grievance did she have? It was her parents who raised Jing Yunjiao for so many years. Even if he was a dog, he should know how to repay a debt of gratitude. She stared at Jing Yunjiao with a disgusted gaze. Jing Yunjiao's heart floated a trace of a strange feeling. He turned his head and coincidentally met Qiao Hongye's gaze. In the next moment, he saw Jing Yunjiao's lips curl into a smile. There was no warmth in his smile, so cold that it made people panic. Qiao Hongye's heart skipped a beat, and her imposing manner instantly weakened. Rolling her eyes, she turned her head away. Hongyi, what's wrong? Noticing that something was wrong with her expression, the student beside her immediately asked. It's nothing. The sun is too strong, it's making me dizzy. Qiao Hongye only felt a buzzing sound in her head. She was abnormally irritated, so she casually replied. The student frowned and didn't say anything. Where did the sun come from so early in the morning? Even if it was noon, it wasn't summer. How could the sun make people dizzy? Moreover, Qiao Hongye's expression was too frightening, as if she wanted to eat someone. No one had offended her. When Jing Yunjiao saw this scene, he only smiled coldly and turned his head. Jing Yunjiao, I'm sorry. 2 days ago, I also talked bad about you to a lot of people, but I didn't mean it. I originally thought that you. On the way back to class, a girl suddenly blocked Jing Yunjiao's path and apologetically said, Now that you know the truth, it's fine. Jing Yunjiao replied with a smile. She was calculative towards her enemies, but the majority of the people in this school didn't have any bad intentions towards her, so there was no need to keep harping on it. Moreover, this girl had already come to apologize, which meant that her reputation had improved. This is the first time I'm talking to you. Originally, everyone said that you were fierce, but now I realize that you're not. Moreover, your grades are so good. Can I borrow your notes in the future? The girl's expression immediately relaxed as she asked. No problem. Jing Yunjiao didn't interact with people often, so at this moment, he seemed pitifully quiet. However, the slightly fresh smile on his face imperceptibly infected many people. Even he didn't realize that many boys couldn't help but blush when they looked at him. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.